this meeting to order. The purpose of this meeting is for our 2021 budget. The idea today is to complete the other departments, get the report from Public Works and Waste, Library, Fire, Parks and Rec, see where their budgets stand, and then we'll receive them at the end of this meeting. And it looks like on December 14th is our next meeting that we'll be able to tie in all the things that need to be tied in as far as priorities and any other things that need to be added in. So, and if there's things that need to be taken away, we can work on it between now and then to try and get things right here. And we finally got all the numbers here for the whole budget. It still hasn't got the area rating and things like that for the village, but right now we're standing at a 2.73% increase with $179,000 of new money to be spent. So, so that gives us an idea kind of where we stand and what we need to do to move forward. So I'll remind council of declaration of pecuniary interest if it arises. And with that, we will move right into the business. And the first up is Public Works and Peter Lawson. So welcome, Peter. You are muted.
Yes, good morning. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
So Peter, if you want to go through, like we do have a summary sheet here of things that you were planning for this year. So I'm not sure where you want to start between you and Wendland, but you can present what you've got so far between the two of you. I don't know, Wendland, if you want to go through the sheets there.
Yeah, so this budget right now is, the draft is sitting at a 5.98% increase, or a difference in dollar values of $94,028. What has been built into the budget to date is projects such as the connecting link for the storm sewers along Ottawa Street and Smith Drive, sidewalks, pavement, manhole lift, Sawmill Bay Road resurfacing, and the Old Norwood Road, the west side resurfacing. Additions proposed to be discussed would be King Street, some boulevard issues there, a potential coverall building at the 6th line to put in for equipment to be secured, bodywork on vehicle 1751, and that has come in. Peter has gotten some estimates of that, so that would be around 3,500. Fish Hatchery Bay Road, do we take it over and do we upgrade it, and how is that going to happen? And washrooms on Highway 7 at the Chamber of Commerce building, and Peter has gotten quotes, and that came in anywhere from 53 to 63,000. A couple other items Peter has given me is William Street, the turnaround at the end of William Street, to resurface that at approximately $8,000, and to add in catch basin maintenance. And he was gonna get some further numbers on that, so I'll let him talk on that subject.
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin. So just to clarify too, on the Old Norwood Road, that section from 30 to the 10th is in good shape. It was resurfaced not too long ago. It's the section from the 10th to the 11th concession. That was the section that we were interested in resurfacing. And then with Sawmill Bay too, it's in pretty dire needs of some resurfacing there as well. It needs quite a bit to be brought up, much similar to the 8th line. It needs some subgrade material there brought up for some fill and compaction and elevation and some ditching there as well. So those are the two roads that we have. Unfortunately, we're still waiting for our roads need study apparently it is in a draft form, but we have not received it yet for this year. So those are the 2 roads that that staff has noticed is in the worst condition. Yes, the sidewalks, Smith Drive and sidewalks and the manhole lifts, that's it come in pretty close to 65,000. We added an extra 5,000 there just for a little bit of a breathe way there. That's the second lift of pavement. They got it in the curb infills. They got to lift all the manholes and the sidewalks on the north side, and topsoil and sod and so on there as well. So I did talk to John Sales from Engage Engineering on the Fish Hatchery Road as well. They didn't, the email stated from Engage that they did not go by any standard. What they have done is they have based it on our as a class 5. So that's how they've come up with that price. So it's there's no standards. They just went on our existing roads, our gravel roads, and based them to be similar in a class 5 road. So that's where that price has come in at through Engage. Yes, and the 1 full-time position would bring us back to the same level of staff that we used to have when Brian McMillan was the director of public works with us as well. So the William Street turnaround, it's estimated it's right close to the same as the other turnaround we previously have done this summer. So it come in just right around the that $8,000 mark, and hopefully that it would be nice to have all our turnarounds in the village hardtopped, and then we can treat them all the same with for maintenance, for winter maintenance, especially for salt, and no longer needed any sand. And yeah, I don't know if there's any questions there that anyone has, or.
No, I just have regards to the gravel haul. Well, hearing an echo there. The gravel haul there, Peter, it says 50,000 and 50,000. So what's is that all? It's 100,000 altogether?
No, that's been in the budget for 50,000 for quite a few years consecutively, and yeah, that's just for for us to go through, staff to go through, and then get some extra gravel on like the 10th this year and so on, right? Just for us to use to bring some extra gravel onto the side roads that need it or require. Yep. So that's not 100,000. That should be 50,000. Yes.
Yeah. No, I just went there. So okay, it's no, it's there's not a whole lot in there, but there's some things that we're still progressing forward. So I'll open it up to council there. I think Councillor Pomeroy had his hand up. Go ahead, Barry.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. The one additional employee, would that be, say, Matt?
That's what staff would recommend. Yes.
Okay.
It would be eliminating. It was eliminating the one seasonal person and just going to one seasonal and one.
Yes, that's correct. Yes, Mayor Martin, that was absolutely correct. So it would bring us back to a full staff, and then we would just require one seasonal operator throughout the winter and summer months. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Barry, is there any other council member with a question there? Go ahead, Larry.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I'm looking through the documents that I have. The cost for Fish Hatchery Road, I haven't found it yet. It's not in the handout that I got yesterday, right, Wendelin?
It was in the previous handout that you had, and the cost was $693,100.
So those
That was the page from Engage.
Correct. So those numbers, what we talked about in the past was the road standards. So we felt that if we brought that road up to a road standard, not as a main traveled road, that the cost would be different. So it sounds to me like that quote or that amount is bringing the road up to a road standard as in one of our main roads. Is that correct, Pete?
Through you, Mayor Martin. So what Engage has done with that price, so they've taken an average gravel road, like the second line south, say, and that's what standard they've used to, so it'll be the same as the second line south.
Is
They've
that-
used the class 5 road, which is the lowest road that's maintained year round.
Okay, that answers my question. Thank you.
Yep.
And another question, the costing to put a permanent washroom facility over at the kiosk, what all did that include, that amount of money?
Through you, Mayor Martin. So Councillor Ellis, so I met on site over there with contractor, and the thought was there was only one option there, being with the washroom inside. The one part had the utility room, like the hydro panel. So there was going to have to be a washroom was going to be a mutual between everybody. So it would be a man and woman, child. So the price revolves around, so someone come in with a baby would have the baby station and it'd be all accessible. It'd be for his handicap as well. So it was quite extensive, but it was just strictly for one washroom only. There was not enough room in the building to have 2 separate washrooms.
Okay, and how did you the $50,000 mark there? How did you figure that cost?
That was through the contractor. I let him do all the pricing and estimating on it, but that was for all the accessibility, all the handrails, all the baby stations, the hot water tank, running plumbing and electrical. That was all a part and parcel there. So it was a little bit higher than I was expecting for sure, but flooring, yes.
It seems quite high. I guess if it was going to happen, then tender prices could be different, I guess.
Yes, through your Mayor Martin. Yeah, definitely. We'd for something that's come in as a quote or an estimate, that'd be over $50,000 in our procurement. We'd have to send that out for tender. So it could vary. Definitely, yes.
And just one quick comment on the roads. We're talking about Sawmill Bay Road, as we all know, is a disaster, especially in the early part of the summer because of the location of it and going through a swamp. So I totally agree with especially that road to get it brought up to grade. I guess similar to, like you say, the 8th line or what you did back at the fish hatchery, the end of the, God, lost the name of Burnt Dam Road, sorry.
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin. Exactly, Councillor Ellis. It needs to be brought up. I've seen that right underwater, quite a section of that Burnt Dam Road. So that's definitely one of the reasons why it needs to be brought up. But the subgrade there is definitely, it's probably corduroy, and it definitely needs to come up to make it, if we're going to put a new surface treatment on it, it definitely needs to come up and have a good solid base and be out of the water table. So yes.
Great, thank you, Peter.
Okay, go ahead, Dave.
Thank you, Mayor Martin. Just for clarification on what we're going through today. For instance, the Burnt Dam Road or any other fish hatchery road, we're just commenting on these today. We're not saying whether we're in favor or whether we're not in favor today. That's going to come at a later date, right?
Yeah, it'll be for discussion with the departments to lead into the December meeting, but it doesn't hurt to get your comments out today on where you stand with it to know how far we should go with it as far as with the staff. So we're not wasting their time, but nothing will be finalized until we get to the end of the budget and all these numbers come together. Like I say, there's still a lot of things here that aren't here yet. So we need to compile it all together and have a good understanding. So on the December 14th meeting, I'm thinking a lot of stuff will be, we'll be looking to try and get it to stick in there or whether it'll be pulled out of there. So we can start playing with the OMPF money that we received last week and see if we can use some of it to help some of these projects. move forward, and that way it wouldn't affect the budget. But anyways, that's where I think the next step today, I'll be receiving, the staff input, and then we can kind of hear from council on, you can clarify some things there that you need to, and we'll have a couple of weeks to move forward. Go ahead, Gwendolyn.
I was hoping,
This man, Dave,
sorry.
Dave, go ahead. You want to finish? Sorry?
Me or, okay. So I was looking from today's meeting for a little bit more direction from council on some of the items that are not included in the budget, so that can be worked on to be put into the next draft to see where those numbers wash out. So if potentially we could go through the list, and if you want them, say yay or nay, and then we can put those numbers in, and then at the end of to see the true impact of those projects and how we can fund those projects reasonably, then we could make more informed decisions.
Okay, so, and it's hard for us to make a decision if we don't know, like, even that washroom thing, like, I don't think 50,000 is going to be too high. I think you'll be surprised when it comes to a public building. It's probably, that might even be light. But anyways, it's, so as long as we're not hearing it get pulled, Gwendolyn, I think between now and the next meeting, we'll have to work with you to try and get them implemented. Unless somebody downright says, no, pull that out, we don't have the money this year, let's move on. And if we get a consensus from council today that that's what they would like, that thing, maybe you don't have to try and get it added into it. But between now and the next meeting, you're right, we need to have all the numbers. We don't, like I say, we don't have the area rating, we don't have anything in here to be able to really make a good decision. So we just have to do the best we can with what we have, and see where it sticks. So like I say, if council is downright, like, look at that summary sheet and say, and kind of laugh at it and say, there's no way we can do it, and there's a good reason why we can't, we don't have to waste staff's time between now and December 14th and try and get it to hang in there. But there wasn't a lot of things on there that were crazy, other than the Fish Hatchery Road, and I had some questions there with regards to when you look at the sheet that Engage did there. I think kind of like what Larry's saying, there's some things in there that money that they're showing, like even the contingency fund, if you were doing it over a few years type of thing, it's the contingency isn't as necessary as a project that you're putting out to tender. If some of the stuff is going to be done in stages, because it's a guideline, but there's a lot of numbers in there that I highlighted that I wanted to talk to Peter about between now and the December meeting, to see if they can be worked on, and if it could be implemented in a different way. But that's just my thoughts with regards, like, Gwendolyn does need to know, like, if there's something there today that you see, there's no way we can do it, get the consensus of council, and then we won't waste her time trying to put that into the budget. So there's a few things on there that we heard about from the last meeting, and most of them are workable, or at least worth looking at. But whether they stick in there at the end, that'll be when things come to a head. So Dave, did you want to finish up there then, or?
Yeah, okay then, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Peter, just for clarification then, on the washrooms, for instance, on Highway 7, does that include the construction work? I mean, you got to do some digging there to make this happen, right?
You, Mayor Martin, yes. When I was talking to the contractor, I'm sorry, Deputy Mayor Dro, they said they would look after the inside, and that was the extra 10,000 that for plumbing the outside, us to hook on to the sanitary. So it's kind of a variable. I thought time and material, and do what we could on our own to do the connection there, because it is something we should be able to handle, at least to tie into the water line. I think we'd use the water line that does the tap and the caboose there. I think we could tie into that water line there for a water supply and bring it to the building. And then the sanitary line has already been installed, but it's stops out in front in the parking lot there. So hopefully we could do most of that work ourselves, but it still is a little bit. That's why we have a range there, Deputy Mayor Droe, yes.
So one more, Peter, one more. Is that on municipal property, that whole thing?
I'm getting a bit of an echo there. I don't know if that.
Not me.
Through you, Mayor Martin, I believe that we have found out, dealing with the county and Plan Mac, I believe that is not on our property. Maybe Gwendolyn might be able to help out there a bit on that, but I believe that is on CP rail land, I believe.
That is CP rail land. And I think that the chamber has an agreement with CP rail. I don't know what the agreement says. So the only concern I have that council needs to have consideration with that project is that's not our building. So from an asset management standpoint, who would own that? It wouldn't be in our asset management plan. And who going forward would maintain that? And so we have to think more around the whole process. So I just put that out.
That's what I was gonna say. That's a good point, Wendell, in terms of not just that, but if we do it, who's gonna maintain it? Is it gonna be part of Parks and Rec? Is it gonna be part of roads? Because if we're still in COVID, as a public washroom, it's gonna need to be cleaned every time somebody uses it. So I mean, are we gonna get into, have we thought about how much it's gonna cost staffing in terms of having to clean it and the rest of that? I think some of those numbers should be worked into.
Yeah. So Larry, you had something?
Yeah, just through you, Mr. Mayor, just to add to some of the comments from other councillors here. And Wendland, the property is owned by rail. And I've been trying to get some of the information through the Lions and the chamber about agreements, because there are agreements. That's why the building sits where it is. So yeah, so and whatever ends up being done there, yes, who's going to maintain it? It's all part and parcel of the package. So anyway, I was trying to get some of the agreement information, which I haven't been able to find yet. And one last comment, and this is not just for Peter, but because we're talking to Peter here now, disregarding the wish list as we talk about, or what other items might be added into this budget. If we look at the budget as it stands, it's not anywhere near inflationary rate, and that's my understanding. Our goal is to try to move in that direction, inflationary rate. So I would ask Peter, as well as all departments that have brought a budget, proposed budget forward that's not in line with inflationary numbers, to start looking, because you know, we all have had a hard year in our municipality and residents especially. So just a comment to Peter. Thank you, Peter.
Larry, go ahead, Barry.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. The building is not on our property. It's on CP rail. So we shouldn't be doing anything with it. If anybody's going to do anything with it, it should be the chamber. And the price that we have here right now, Larry talking about, you know, inflationary things, that the price of that puts 1% more on our taxes alone, that project, the way it stands. And it'll probably come in more than that. So I'm not in favor of spending money on a project that we don't even own. And I'm sure that the business people in this town should step up and get this thing going. I know they want to get it going. It's been a tough old road to hoe here for years. But we just can't hand it to them on a plate neither. It's taxpayers' dollars, and that's a business association, really. So I'm not in favor of that project on those basis that it's going to put our tax, or a 1% increase of our taxes.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be a percentage increase. We have OMPF of $1.5 million that we can look at. If you look at that property, we look after it all. We do the water, we do cut the grass, we do the gardens. We maintain everything over there anyway, so it's just another thing to be added in. Even though we don't own it, we do everything with it. So
Yeah, just keep adding to it though, Jim. Like this is it.
Yep.
You gotta
Yeah,
stop
I hear
somewhere.
you. So like we put an outhouse there every year.
Mhm.
Pretty classy looking thing sitting in the middle of town. It's just somebody's come up with an idea here. I don't know who put this one in, but we did put the sanitary sewer over to there 4 years ago, and the idea was eventually to have a proper washroom. But if we can't do it, we can't do it. That's the other side of it. Is that's one of the things that is this the year? I don't know. That's up to council. So, Dave, go ahead.
Well, we might just as well hash it out now. Staff said that if we're not gonna do it, why are they working on it?
Yeah, well, that's it. So if council's not in favor of it, now's the time to say pull it off the list. But I would also say pull the outhouse off the list too, because I'm tired of seeing that in town. So we're in an urban area and we run with outhouses all the time. It's just kind of a little outdated. So I don't think we should purchase that outhouse every year too. So that's just my thoughts on that part of it. But if this is the year, all they need is, you can make a motion to pull that out, and then that won't be looked at as far as the future. Go ahead, Larry.
Sure, you, Mr. Mayor, and I understand all council's comments regarding the cost. Rather than talk about putting taxpayers increase up 1%, I'm sure that there's ways, as Wendland has indicated, or through you, Mr. Mayor, that indicated. Before we just pull this off the table, I would like to have it left there until maybe I can get some information back through the chamber itself, whether they have been able to find any kind of grants or funding to support the project. I haven't heard from them in some time, so I would ask to have at least just leave it on the table until such times as there may be some more information, as well as from Wendland as how to foot the bill.
Okay.
Thank you.
Wendland, go ahead.
I just wanted to comment on Councillor Ellis' comment about the percentage increase. So we have to keep in mind that this department had restructuring with staff. So that's where a majority of the percentage increase is coming from. So there's not a whole lot of increases throughout the operating, just basically coming from wages. So I don't know how that could be avoided. So just to keep that in mind. So that affects this department. It also affects Parks and Rec as well with the restructuring.
Okay, go ahead, Larry.
Just one last comment through you, Mr. Mayor. We also, over the past more than a year, ran short in different departments because of, and so the recognized savings there then. Did that go in a reserve?
Yes, there's a resolution brought each year at the end of the year to council that any surpluses or deficits are funneled through the reserves. And if there isn't a reserve in that department, it would go to the working funds.
Okay, so I think we had a conversation, might have been at the last meeting, regarding the reserves. I think there was a request for a copy of each department and where the reserves stand and what
Yeah.
what
That was
departments
provided.
put into the reserve from 2020.
So 2020 isn't completed yet, so we don't know what those numbers are. But I did provide council with the updated reserve totals.
Yeah, so there was some questions on that at the end there. It's there's a lot of things here that show in that investment or that reserve sheet that you gave us, investment income, and it's zero all the way across on most of the lines that I've seen, and I didn't understand that part of it, Wendelin.
Yeah, so that goes in. I'll be doing that in December when I get the December totals. And then that goes in. So it should, depending on each reserve, it could go anywhere from $500 to a couple $1,000 for investments.
Okay. All right then. Hart, go ahead.
Do we have a policy, or do any of the departments have a policy in terms of how much money is contributed to the reserves, or do they just dump whatever's left every year?
So every year the surplus and deficits go into the reserves, but then there's also the contribution to reserves, which is built into the budget.
And that's where this budget, the roads budget, is there a little extra going in for reserves as far as for equipment replacement then?
Yeah, so that number is
Because we got a bit of a shortfall between this and the fire department, if I remember right.
Yeah. Pages here. So we have $185,465 going into the reserves, and that's for equipment replacement.
Okay. Hart, go ahead.
Yeah, but my question is, like, do we have a policy? So was that the total amount that was there last year, or was there more than 185, or like, how do we know what we commit to reserves?
Yeah, so normally there's a 2% increase each year to that contribution,
Yes, but
but there's no defined policy per se to what each reserve is consist of. But we do have a spreadsheet based on decisions over the years on where it's allocated. But that's on my list to eventually get a more firmer policy on reserves.
So I don't know, is 187, that's the number for roads for last year? Is that what you're using?
Yeah.
Okay, so just say for that, in that we use roads as an example, was 187 the total amount of the surplus, or is that what's
No, that's just the contribution.
So what was the total amount of the surplus though?
So I don't have that number in front of me. It varies from year to year depending on what happens.
Well, obviously, but I mean, that's the number we need, because that's the number that either to me should be rolled back into the budget for the next year, or I guess now is rolled into some working funds thing where I don't know who draws out of working funds, but we got to get straight.
I'm waiting for the auditors to give me that number.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, I think this is what we need to get straightened out in terms of, we have money that's just kind of getting pooled up in these reserves somewhere that's getting lost. And if you want to contribute the 187 plus 2%, whatever, but that extra money should be rolled into for next year for that.
There's
department.
not always extra money, Hart. There is, sometimes we do have a short.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is when there is, what I'm hearing is it's getting rolled into this working funds thing. And I couldn't explain what working funds is to you, Jim. So, you know, I don't think that's right.
So it stays with each department too, does it not, Wendelin? So it's the working funds of that reserve. So they stay with each, it doesn't go into a general fund.
No, but it's still a reserve, because what happens is the taxation gets end up getting still put up. And what I'm saying is that money should be rolled back in. You're still contributing to your reserves.
You're right. That's what we need to see. And it's just something that's not there right now. And that's where it makes it hard to finalize the budget, because you got to see those numbers to be able to finalize the budget. So,
Okay. Yep. Thank you.
so that'll come forward. We need it before we can pass the budget, Wendell. Like, you know, that's why it's nice to pass a budget before Christmas, but there's a lot of unknowns that we, you know, it makes it hard to deal with. So,
Yeah, I've been working with the auditors and I should have those numbers from them by next week.
Okay. All right. So Barry, did you have your hand up?
Well, I guess I said my piece on it, and but the only other thing is, Jim, maybe you wouldn't want to see an outhouse there, but they put it around behind the building, and if somebody is working there, they would have somewhere to go. But it's not a budgetary item, and I don't see why we would even take it on at this time, because there's too many unknown factors. They were supposed to have been looked in and see if they could get grants and so on and so forth. There's been no effort put forth. Larry seems to be doing a lot of work on his own. But then I'm going to go from there back to the road back at Cordova at the Fish Hatchery Road. Now, the price on that we got from Engage is, I would like to know more detail on that. How far back the road do we go? I don't want to get into the bridge, and you should know that more so than anyone. Is there a whole bunch of surveying that has to be done that's not in the budget? I want to see some true figures here, and how far are we going to go that we don't get in the jackpot? You know, there's a lot of these projects, there's nothing to substantiate, you know, a true figure.
Yeah. Yeah. Engage has that all on their thing. I don't see surveying on it, though. You're right there.
I
The rest
know.
of it, the rest is all in there. So
Yeah,
That
well,
would be an
that's
additional
what,
cost.
Through you, Mayor Martin, Barry, sorry, Barry, Councillor Pomeroy. I think that is a property acquisition. That's what John had described to me when the survey went through. I believe that 20,000 was the property acquisition, and they weren't sure yet if they needed, you know, to straighten the road or if it was where the fence lines were. I think that might be covered in that section there on that quote. Was the property acquisition. Is from what I understood from John's sales through Engage. So, but I agree with you 100% that, yeah, I think we should sit down and maybe go through that. And if it's something that council really wants to go ahead with, then I know a lot of the work that we can do ourselves, like we reconstruct the Sawmill Bay Road, for example, right? We can do a lot of it in-house through some equipment rentals from Grain Brothers or whoever the tenders come in as. So.
okay.
thanks, Peter. That was my question.
I was just going to say, yeah, I think the surveying might be captured under the number 18 general engineering down at the bottom of that sheet.
Yeah, I think the numbers are there, and it's something that, yeah, we're gonna have to have clarification. We can't just agree to it, whether, like Barry said.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It always comes in over budget.
Oh, sure it does. And we know that it might be acquisition of the property, but it's not surveyed. So therefore, to make it legal, to buy all these places where there's a crook in the road, it's one thing to own the property, or you think you do, but it's got to be surveyed.
Yeah, so, and that's something maybe we can work with M&R with, as far as Dave Smith is still working on this too. So, so we have till December 14th, and there's things changing all the time. So I don't think it's something to pull. I think it's something to just get clarification on all these numbers. Like I say, I highlighted about 5 things here that, could probably be pulled out of there or looked at a little differently. Larry, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think both of these projects, the kiosk issue with the washroom and by Road 18, both need some more clarification. And I'll do my best through the chamber to get more information for the next meeting regarding the kiosk and possible washroom and who owns and who rents and all the agreements that there are between M&R or CPR and Lions and the kiosks. So
Okay.
if we leave it on the list for now, and hopefully we'll have some clarity on both of those topics before a decision's made.
Sounds
Thank
good.
you.
Dave, go ahead.
I have no problem leaving it on. I just want to, if Wenlow could give me a clarification. It said that there wouldn't be any difference in the tax rate because there could be grants out there to help with this kiosk washroom situation. But I guess my question is, if there's grants there, if you had a grant for that, would it be specifically for that? Because it's not on our property, it's not on municipal property, and if it could be used for that, can it be used for something else? I mean,
So as far as grants, we would have to own it to be able to apply for the grant. I don't think we could apply for a grant if we didn't own the building or the property.
so the mayor mentioned something about OMP of funding. Does that apply to that too?
No, that is unconditional funding from the government. So you can determine wherever that goes. I'm talking like if you had a specific grant, such as a Trillium grant for accessibility or something
So
of
what
that
you're
nature.
saying, we could use OMP of funding for anything, even if
It's
it's not on
unconditional.
municipal property.
Yes.
Okay. That's cleared it up, but
So
Yep.
it didn't clear anything up though, Dave. I think we got a lot of work to do as far as, like, I agree with Larry about leaving it for now, but I wouldn't spend a lot of time on it as far as, let's leave it up to, if Larry can find out more on it. Maybe that's not the place for it. Maybe it's for discussion later as far as maybe we should be putting it on our medical center or something like that, in addition on there for a washroom. The idea was a public washroom that people can use without having an outhouse. And we do need an outhouse for the chamber people there, or they need one. That's up to them, but it's just as far as the township. I wasn't talking about that outhouse, Barry. I was talking about the one in the center of town. The one at the building, if that's what they have to use, that's what they have to use. If they have to have something there, and I didn't mean that. So just wanted to clarify that. But as far as everything else that's in here, Peter, I don't think there's, there's some questions around things, but there's some good things in here that would allow us to kind of progress and move forward. There's not a whole lot of road work next year. Like sometimes you see 6 or 8 things, but there's 2 big ones in there. I think that's why the number, it's down a little bit on road work, but it's major construction to those sections. So, and it does have the increase in the contribution to reserve to help us with our capital shortfall that we were thinking we might have. And that was the other thing. We have a new plow truck in here, I think, as far as did I read that right for that? Is that International being replaced?
Yes, the 1041 is being replaced. The truck is on order. I've been in communication with Viking Chives right in Mount Pleasant. They've asked for our address to drop off the front plow and the wing. And I have replied asking delivery time of the truck. And as of right now, it's looking like it's the end of January, 1st of February. So that was passed for last budget, but the truck hasn't been built yet. So it's been carried over for 2021. Yeah.
And that's where, to go back to Councillor Webb's suggestions there with the reserves, when we sell that truck and the truck that we have now and the plow and wings, that goes back into the working funds. And, so next year there should be probably $30,000 that could be put back into the budget or put towards something. I'm not sure what the truck's going to sell for, but that's one of those things, Hart, that we'll have monies to work with there as far as to put them back in. Gwendolyn and then Dave.
I just wanted to bring to council's attention to like the Connecting Link project. We got an email late yesterday afternoon from PlanMac. They were proposing to do test holes to see where utility services are laid out along Ottawa Street. So my concern was and that was around 90 to 95,000 to do those test holes. So my concern is if we do not succeed in getting the Connecting Link grant approved, do we spend that money now, which would be 100% our cost, versus waiting to have that, if we're successful with the Connecting Link grant, at a 90% government, 10% township split. So I put that out to council for your consideration because they're thinking of wanting to move ahead with these test holes. I'll let Peter discuss more, but my concerns were the inclement weather and the funding, potential funding loss if we do that now versus knowing if we're approved.
Did you say $90,000 to $95,000 to do test holes for
So
utilities?
we'd be looking at like 86,000 for a company to come in and do that, and then another 5,000 to PlanMac. So my concern is as well with the procurement bylaw, anything over $50,000 should be tendered. So I don't know if we should be sole sourcing that to one company.
Okay. Peter, that sounds funny, like they dig holes to find out what's in the ground?
Yes, Mayor Martin. Yeah, that's what they want to do. They'd like to, the engineering company would like to find out exactly, and it'd be for their elevations of their storms, like coming off the lateral streets, trying to tie into the main storm sewer. That's what they need to know, where our water main is, the height or the depth, the gas. They need to know where all the utilities are, because theirs are all gravity. So that's, and to know exactly where it is and if their pipe is actually going to fit in the actual road allowance. But I discussed this with Gwendolyn briefly yesterday, and my thought was that I think that we should wait for funding to see if we're going to be approved for it, and that's going to go on top and over of what the funding that we've already applied for. So this is an additional on top of the the 3.5 or the 3 million and the 90%, right? So my suggestion is I would like to see us wait and get funding and make sure it's going to be approved. But with that being said, I can't remember, I don't have the email in front of me, apologize for that, but they're 4-meter lateral test holes with a back truck. And Gwendolyn, if I remember right, there's 20 or 21 test holes. So it's just not a borehole in Highway 7. And we've just spent $400 and some thousand on microsurfacing in last year and a half. And if the project doesn't go, then we're going to have a whole lot of patches all throughout our Connecting Link. And I mean, we would require the Connecting Link to have 2 lifts like the HL8 and HL4 to be put back and compacted, and coming into winter maintenance, I think would be a struggle with plowing, and yeah, where my thought was anyway. So yeah.
I think you're right. Barry, go ahead.
I think through you, Mr. Mayor, I think Peter's given us some good advice here. And I guess my question to Gwendolyn would be, any idea when we would know about the funding?
I don't have any answers on that yet. I would assume it might be early 2021. And especially now with the COVID, things seem to be moving slower than normal. So I really don't know when any announcement would be made, but I just can't see spending money and then if we're not successful, then we've spent this money, and is council going to want to still pursue a $3.5 million project if we don't receive that 90% funding?
So yeah, I think it's a good, I think you got it right there, Peter. I think we'd be better to wait till we see if the funding comes through and just tie it in with it. It's a major project for us because, like we've talked about in the past, it's we can't do George Street until we get the bottom end done to get a place for the water to go. But there might be other options. I think you've talked about pumping station instead of this $90,000 towards, I don't know what a pumping station's worth, but with all the things that we're seeing here, maybe they'll start listening to you about looking at another alternative. So I think it's good. Just leave it for now. Let's see if the grant comes through, and then we know where we stand, because it's a huge project, and another 90,000 on top of that. So
one more comment, Mayor Martin. I was talking to Wendland yesterday about that, and the grant she thought might be only valid for 1 year. So that might have something to consider, I guess. You know, if it is only valid for 1 year, we'd I think right away have to make an amendment to the grant to extend it, because then we're going to be going forward with the, you know, the test holes and this $100,000. So that's just the only thing I was concerned about, that if we only had the 1 year and we had to have the whole storm in 1 year, would we actually be able to complete it or not, waiting for the grant. But I think talking with Wendland that we'd be able to extend that grant or ask for an extension on it. So hopefully we can do that. That was my only concern with the grant. So
I think it is. So, okay, is there any other questions for Peter? Go ahead, Dave.
Thank you, Mayor Martin. While we have Peter here and we're talking about roads, Wendland asked this morning about anything that hadn't gotten on budget yet. One of the things that could come under OMP funding are signs coming into our municipality, or some of them are getting pretty shabby looking. I don't know whether council has an opportunity to look at them very often, but I know Councillor Pomeroy is out driving around. There's some of them that's been pretty rickety. The one on County Road 44, when you come in off County Road 46, for instance, it's looks like it's been hit by a truck or something. The top end's half off it. They weren't really expensive signs to start with, and they're starting to look pretty shabby. So council had an opportunity to review at some of these signs. I don't know how many there are, Peter, but we should take a serious look at them. They're starting to run down like George Street is. So just a comment and something to think about for the budget.
We have a reserve for that, Dave, for the sign replacement, and it must be near the end, because it was like a 10-year replacement thing, and it must. I haven't looked, Wendland, to see where that is, but
they must be at least 14 years old. Those signs must be at least 14 years or 15 years old.
Okay, so there is we do have a reserve that was supposed to help with that, and yeah, I was looking at a couple of them myself, so it's something that can be looked at over the year, I think. So if there's a reserve for it, right, Wendland?
Yeah, so I'd research that with Peter going forward to maybe put that into the budget. So I've marked that down as an item.
Okay.
Through you, Mayor Martin, to Deputy Mayor Giroux, I think that we would probably revise the signs. Like I know a lot of other municipalities have a nice decorative sign says "Thank you for coming and enjoy your stay," or a nice little adverb. So that's something that we can bring a report to council and get some 2 or 3 options for you to have a look and make a decision on what we have come up with or what staff has provided, and we can take it from there.
All right,
I think it's an economic development thing, Peter. So you might want to check in the economic development budget. So I don't think it's roads anyway. So, okay, Councillor Webb. Go ahead, Art.
Oh, sorry, Jimmy froze up. Yeah, I was just going to say to Peter, yeah, we were working with what's her name, Tracy Bertrand there from PKAD on the assigning strategy. I don't know if wasn't per se about town of Havelock signs as the deputy mayor was referring to, but perhaps moving forward with that project, it's something I could mention to Tracy, and maybe we could incorporate some town signage. How many locations were you referring to? All of them, Dave, or 44 and 46, or?
Well, we should have a standard sign, and it's anywhere that you're coming in from another municipality that we have a sign. So we have them from coming in from Trent Hills or at Trent River. We have them coming in County Road 46. We have them in North Kawartha on County Road 44 and 46. I don't know, Peter, you can help me out. There's more than that, but
Yep.
Down on County Road 50.
Yep.
Yeah, Highway 7. Yes, there's quite a few. Yeah, we come in and out of going up to our Jacks Lake Road there, Shady Lane. I think there's 4 up there alone coming in and out of our township. So we can get a number put together though, definitely, Deputy Mayor Joe.
Peter, so talk with Laura. I think she can find there are entrance signs, like Dave says, and I think it's an economic development thing that we did it through the trip or one of them groups when we did those signs. So and they are near the end of their life as far as needing updating. So we can look at that before we're done the budget and see where we stand with them. So with that, is there any other questions for Peter with regards to this today? Go ahead, Barry. You're muted. Oh, sorry.
Yep. The storm drain at the CPR down where they want to get rid of all the water. I don't know whether Plan Mac is really serious or not, but I mean, that should be our first priority in that project to get rid of the water. This idea of building a retention pond, that's an added expense. I don't know. They just keep putting added expenses in. And then if you got the place for the water to go, you wouldn't need, because you're going to still have to put a box culvert or something in there to get rid of the water. Regardless of what you do, you can build all the retention ponds you want. You can flood the people out in the east end. I just can't understand why they can't figure out that that's got to be the first piece of the pie that's looked after, and the rest of it should be a piece of pie, except number 7 highway. I'm really worried on that, because we should have all the drawings and how many feet deep the gas line is, how many feet deep the sewer system is. We should have all those, but no, we gotta go for the engineer to make another $5,000 on top of something else. And I just get sick of these engineer things, because all it is just money. Like, you get a grant, the price is spent. Okay.
I think that's what it is, Barry. These test holes are probably to find out the depth of all of these things, like Peter said. So that must be another piece of the piece. I totally hear you. And I think if we wait till, our next meeting, hopefully we've heard something from like the federal government. We need to get a hold of them and try and nail her down as far as some help on the railway lands to get across there, because it's easy for the railway to say that they don't want to do anything, but there is some obligation there to help us. There's something there that needs repaired, and I think they can come to the table and help us on that end of it. Okay.
Okay.
All right, Dave, go ahead.
You're muted, Dave.
I'm trying to get unmuted. I know you want to move on there, Martin. I just want to speak on the railroad part of it. Peter's pretty knowledgeable and he's in contact with the people at CP quite a bit. And I think he'd have a lot of input into this, and I think he already has talked to them. So I agree with you, Mr. Mayor. We should talk to our MP, but also our local yard bosses, if you want to call them that, superintendents, would have a lot of pull when it comes to making this happen first, to get the pipe through there.
Yeah.
People can comment if you like it or not, but that's my feeling on it.
Well, that's what, so Peter, yeah, we're gonna have to keep working on that to, you know,
Yep, just through you, Mayor Martin, just quick, yes, I have. I brought quite a few things to the attention of Plan Mac, the outlet, the crossing under the railway, like the other side of it even, that goes back into closed storm and then an open ditch, and then where it goes down out below the dam. There's quite a bit there that needs to be taken into consideration. And yeah, I have a good relationship with Wesley Bates, the area manager for CP, and I talk to him probably at least once a week on different matters. And he is very down to earth, great person to deal with. So if you have any questions that I can't answer, I can call him at any time, and he's yeah, he's like one of us. So yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
All right then. So is there any other questions with regards to roads before we move into the water part of the budget? If we can receive the roads budget and keep working on it here. Hart, go ahead. You want a motion to receive the roads? Okay, moved by Councillor Webb and seconded by Deputy Mayor Giroux. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, we're going to move into the water part of your budget there. And go ahead, Peter.
Yes, Mayor Martin, Council. So we have a few things on the summary here to discuss. The bulk water station at the water tower was one thing that someone brought up that would like to discuss, and the well 3-2 to get it online, to get it the water treated properly there, so we can put it into service. The Ann Street concession, I brought a report to council back in November, I believe, about asking for the design for the west end of Alexander Street. So that would be great to have that done, as well as the storm that needs to be upgraded at the Quebec Alexander intersection there. The Alexander Street from Ann Street to Alexander, or to Union, I'm sorry, it needs to be upgraded. And in talking with Engage and the regulations set out by the ministry, we cannot put the storm right back in the same place. It does not meet the requirements to have separation from the other services. So hopefully that we can get some funding. But if we can go ahead and get the design done, and then we can be right shovel ready for a funding application when it arises. Yeah, Wendelin has a 1.3 increase as the management asset management plan.
And there was some good in there, Peter, you know, the osmosis for well number 3. I think if we could try and hang that in there for now and see if we can do something, I think that would be a really good way of moving forward for the village. Unfortunately, water and sewer we really rely on grants, and we've done pretty well over the last few years, and hopefully we can continue to keep moving forward. Everything that we talk about with water and sewer relies on a grant, because we can't do it on our own with the number of people we have in the village. So I don't think there's a lot on there as far as you know, over the top personally, but go ahead, Barry.
Oh,
You're muted. Everybody has to do it once.
Okay, just a trial run. See if you could read my lips. And the potential bulk water station at the water tower, I think that should come off the list right away, because we do have a bylaw here in the summertime that residents can only water one day on one side and one day on the other. We have probably, when we get this other building up and going across on the long-term care, and with the Peterborough housing and the few houses that have been built in town, you know, we're going to add another 200 to the water and the sewer. So I think that's got to be top priority. And well 3, I think we should be looking at the ozone treatment and get that osmosis off there, Wendland.
Yes, I know.
Oh, yeah.
And I know Dave and myself went over and watched the test run that they did for the ozone, and the clarity was 100%. Our well we can drink it, but it don't look very good. So I would like to see if we could go ahead, get started on the ozone treatment for that plant, because between it and the sewer system, we are going to be relied on here, for to meet capacity, and we're not we're over capacity on the lagoon, so we hear. I'm like Mr. Mayor says there, good job we can get a lot of grants for water and sewers, because we couldn't afford to even keep going. And anyway, that's my concern, is the ozone treatment for well 3, and get rid of that water station at the first of all, it's in a bad place. It's where vandalism could occur very easily. So the rest of it there. Yeah,
I agree. I would like to see it someday, but I don't think we're there yet. That's one of the things that a lot are doing too. I think more of my concern is the one on Highway 7. I would have liked to have seen it moved somewhere or done differently. Like I've talked about before, whether we put a box on the chamber building or something where you drop loonies in or toonies or whatever. But even better yet, I think it could move off Highway 7 and maybe put it over at the medical center or somewhere like that where it's not so accessible. But that's just my thoughts on that. But the bulk water thing, I don't think we're there yet to be able to do something like that either. So did I see Wendland go ahead and then Larry?
So just on the bulk water, in talking to Peter, that wouldn't be able to happen anyways until well 3 was online. And part of the reason that came forward as the bulk water station was the tap on Highway 7 as well, to incorporate all of that in one location instead of Highway 7. So that was part of the thought process there. And I know if we talked about a coin operated gizmo on that water tap on Highway 7, and I know Ryan had previously looked at costing there, and that was like $20,000 to put a unit there to collect coins. So it'd be
$20,000.
Wow. It wasn't cheap.
That was a new car wash going in, I guess.
So that was the kind of the thought process. Why spend $20,000 on a coin operated thing there when it could go over as a bulk system?
I think he got the digit wrong because it was $19,000 or $1,900. Anyways, but that's anyways. Larry, go ahead, and then Barry.
Excuse me, through you, Mr. Mayor. The osmosis system for well number 3, is there a costing for that yet?
Ozone. I did it too. I'm reading off the sheet.
That was my mistake. I put osmosis in it. Actually,
It's osmosis.
Yeah, it's ozone.
Barry won't let me live it down.
For that?
I think the last costing was approximately at least $500,000, if I'm not mistaken, to do that project. It might be a little bit more now. That was a couple of years ago.
Ooh.
And it might be less. You never know. It's new tech. It was new technology at the time, so it's we'll see where it goes. But
we should have an accurate or a reasonably accurate cost and you know, if we're going to apply for funding or if funding's available to get an application in, because it would be great to have that well 3 with good drinking water, as in clarity as well. Anyway, we need to know the costs so we can be prepared for a grant if it's available.
Barry, go ahead.
Yeah, I think we should get a hold of Amber again, and I'm like you are, Jim. That was just a new thing out, and it could, you know, maybe there are different companies that do that now, and it would be competitive. So I think, you know, a report from Amber would be very beneficial to us.
Yeah. So there again, without pulling it off of there, it's there's no way we can do it as part of a budget process, but it's nice to see that we're looking outside the box here and trying to get well 3 up and running. As far as putting any money into it or a number into the budget, I don't think we're there yet, but we can keep working forward to try and get all the numbers in order so we can apply for a grant if it's feasible. So anything else with regards to water? Like I said, there's not a lot in there, but as far as the bulk water station, we should get a motion to remove that off the list. Moved by Councillor Pomeroy, seconded by Councillor Webb. All in favor? And that's carried. So is there anything else with water there, guys? All right. Seeing none, sewer and water. Yeah, I'm just going to do that too. Sewer and water, that side of it there, there's no numbers in there, Wendelin, as far as, if I remember right, it's zeros. So that's up to council to work out a number. Well, there's some numbers on the one sheet, there wasn't on the other one. So go ahead, Barry.
Yeah, I'm taking it. We didn't get any feedback for our E of A for the wastewater treatment plant, and what it would cost to reinstate even one of the lagoons for storage for it to be pumped at a later date. Whoops. Yeah. Have you got anything on that, Wendell?
Okay, so we're moving to sewer, right?
Yeah, I jumped over waste. Sorry, I tied it in with the wastewater, and anyways, it's we'll go back to waste after we deal with.
So I provided council with the capital forecast from Aqua for sewer and water. So if you look at that revised one that I had given you with a total potential of 137,419 at the total for 2021. So the lagoon assessment is in that total at $9,315.
Okay.
And then the EA program is at 46,300. So we had that in the 2020 budget already. So that is a carry forward amount to come from the reserve in 2021.
I think Dave had a question there. Did you clarification, Dave?
Just repeat those, please, Wendell. I didn't get the first one.
So the lagoon assessment, 9,315, and the Class EA program, 46,300. We had 50,000 in the 2020 budget, so I just carried forward 50,000 just to round it up in case there's some contingencies there.
Okay. So now is there any movement on it?
So I think there's going to be an agreement. I'll put that over to Bob from Aqua to proceed with the lagoon.
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin, that agreement will be forthcoming and that will be in process shortly.
Thanks, Bob.
All right then, any other questions with regards to this? Like I say, sorry, I jumped over water. I had it tied in with water, wastewater, whatever. So we'll, or waste, I mean, sorry. So, Dave, go ahead. You're okay? All right then. So so this is still another thing that's in process. You know, there was something there with the E of A there. That's important that we get moving on that. So I don't think there's any changes to this part so far. We can just keep working forward and hopefully get some help with it. So any other questions with regards to that? The part about the 2.2% increase, Wenlin, what's that there for asset management?
Yeah, so that's based on the recently approved asset management plan. And I just wanted to make a comment for both sewer and water. So in 2020, we agreed that we didn't raise the fees because of the COVID. So just so council is aware that these numbers are coming as increases from the 19 numbers, not the 2020 numbers. So it would look more reasonable, since COVID's still kind of in our realm right now, that we wouldn't double back that increase from the 2020 previous numbers, that it is increased from the 19 numbers.
Right. Okay.
If that makes sense.
Okay. Larry, go ahead.
Just for clarity and information to anybody that's listening or watching, how do you establish the percentage for asset management?
So it's based on a number of factors of the age of our infrastructure and the cost of replacing or repairing that infrastructure going forward for the next 10 years.
Thank you.
So Larry kind of touched on a good point there. So I know I don't see anyone on the screen, but there is people going to be watching it later. Does anybody ask for these binders, Wendolyn, or like we don't have all this online, do we? Is this budget all scanned and online so people want to look at it, they can, or how are we dealing with that side of it?
The highlight information and the summary amounts are online as far as I know. I'd refer to Bianca on that because I haven't really looked at the website to see what's posted, but that's what's posted right now. And then also, if anybody wants to review the asset management plan, that is also posted on the website.
But so the binder from last year, though, if somebody requested it, it must be accessible to them, right?
The binder's not posted on the website, no.
No, but if somebody asked for it, they could get it if they want to dive right into the budget.
If somebody asked for a copy, then we would provide it.
Thank you. Okay, because I'm sure there's some out there. That's what's hard with the Zoom, because normally when we're doing this in person, it would be on the screens and people can see exactly what we're talking about. So it does make it a little hard for anybody outside trying to know what we're talking about here. And the highlights do help for the most part, but there's some people that like to dive right into the numbers here and see exactly what we're talking about. So as long as it's accessible for them, that's good. So is there anything else with regards to the sewer part of the budget? Barry, go ahead. Mute.
Yeah, the sewer, you have a 2.2 increase by the asset management and another 1.3 in water. So that brings you up to what, 3.5% on your new billing. Is that correct, Gwendolyn?
Well, it's not a cumulative. It's so your rate for, go back to the sheet here. So the sewer would be $61.50 a month for a residential rate, and a commercial rate would be $80.75. And for water, your residential rate would be $59.75, and your commercial would be $70 even per month.
So the 24 units that are coming online in the new year, are they figured into this?
Yes,
Final? Okay,
there's 24 units at residential and 1 additional commercial because they have a common area.
okay.
So that puts our bill up $4 and change probably.
I don't know.
Around
the-
$5.
I think 2 1/4, Barry.
For water and sewer?
I think so. Would you say 59.50 and 61.75, didn't you?
Art's quicker than my calculator.
Yeah, he's quicker. He can do it in his head. So it'd be $59.75. It's just I gotta flip papers. Sewer.
$61.50.
Yeah, right now it's 61.50 for just sewer. For residential.
Mhm.
And
So
61.
it'd be
It'd be
121.25.
a
Okay,
month
can
for residential.
you repeat that for me, please?
$121.25 a month for residential if you have both services, because not
Okay.
everybody has both services.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, if everybody got all their questions in with regards to the sewer budget? Okay, I'll look for a motion to receive the sewer budget for today, and we can move back to, moved by Councillor Webb and seconded by Councillor Ellis. All in favor? And that's carried. Now we can move back to waste. Sorry, I missed that. Like to keep one on our toes with the.
Okay, so just the highlights of this budget is it's coming in at a reduction of 7.28% or a monetary difference of minus 20,131. So we're looking for some efficiencies within this department by adding in a scale to the 6-line waste site at $100,000 with 1 full-time staff to be added to because of the scale. And Peter can explain that more on how that would work. And then eliminate cash payments at the 6th line and only accept debit and credit as payment. And then also add 2 waste bins at the 6th line site. And this will avoid overtime on weekends to pack the bins because they'd have more rooms to do that. And then also increase the bag tag cost to $2 a bag as of January 1, 2021. So I'll let Peter explain what he has found out with the scales, with the company that installs scales, as well as some information from Duro Dummer.
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin. So I recently have received a quote from Rosa Scale, one of the larger suppliers of scales in our area. Been in business for quite a few years. But yes, the salesman and Duro Dummer as well, I know they put scales in approximately 10 years ago, and everywhere they seem to be installed. The scales seem to be paid for in less than 2 years, some are even 6 months, depending on how their site is being operated. I think it would be a great asset to our municipality scales for, and as well as staff. We would require 2 staff and to run the scales, one being in the hut, to say, putting the cars through and running the credit card machine, but one would be required too to help up on top with the unloading of materials and cleaning up the site and so on. It'd be something I would really look forward to having, would be a set of scales, and I think would be an asset definitely an asset, and it would show really fast, I believe. The 2 waste bins, a little history, I guess, throughout the summer months, definitely, July, August, with the COVID being here, the waste site 6 line is still very busy. We're still in on the weekends, staff still in on the weekends packing the bins. So with the 2 extra bins, we could use that and save some staff coming in. There's been weekends that I've had to have 3 different operators come in at 3 different times from Friday to Monday morning to pack the bins to give us the extra room we need to for the waste site. It'd be nice to see in discussions with Wendland about cash and how it's handled, and I would like to see no more cash. I think the time that we're at, I think the debit machine or the credit or debit, I think is much easier. To be no cash leaving or nothing on site, deposits, anything like that. It would be, I think, for reliability and insurance reasons, talking to Wendland would be much in our favor for that purpose as well. The increase in the tags might be a bit on the steep side, but it might be too big of a jump too fast, but I would like to see us increase somewhat. The other municipalities are quite a bit ahead of us. As I know, as an example, Trent Hills, I believe, is $3.75 a tag. So I think a slight increase would be advisable on the tags alone. And if we did have the scales, then the tags, we could decide that when we get there. If we do go ahead with scales, we could just have a limit, and then like a flat rate, I should say, or still accept tags, or both. But then it'd be over such a weight would be paying per tonnage, and I think that's where we're losing quite a bit there, because we don't know exactly how much weight, and then we're getting charged on the weight when it leaves. And as well as the scrap metal, we are just right now is taking someone's word that their scales and what they're paying us. So I would advise, if we did go with scales, we would know the weight of our material leaving to go to scrap metal. So we could reference that as well to make sure, and then we could put that out for tender to see who has paying the best rate as well. So there's quite a few benefits, I believe, to the scales.
So Peter, thanks for all the work you put into this. There's a lot of changes around there, but I think it's long overdue. And with the tags, I think that's one of those things, when you don't change it a little bit here and there, it's quite a spike all at once. So I don't know whether it's possible to do it over 2 years, like $1 this year, like up a little bit this year and a little bit next year. The other side of it is going to the clear bag policy. There might be less garbage, and it might encourage people to use recycle more. I know the Norwood last month was down 35%, I think it was, Dave, as far as their waste, since they went clear bag. So it's made quite a difference. And so the increase might not mean as much to people if they were using the recycle more. So just my thoughts there. Dave, go ahead, and then Larry.
Well, first of all, Thank you, Peter. And I'm going to go backwards on your list. I'll go with your $2 bag tag. I do agree that there should be some kind of an increase there. We haven't had an increase in quite a while. And our bags our tags are fairly cheap, and it encourages people to throw stuff in the black garbage bags that probably wouldn't get there. Jim and I both are getting chastised at the county constantly about our weight that's coming out of our transfer stations. So I think this would encourage people to be more careful. Council will be the ones that, the whole will be the ones that decide how much that increase might be. The waste bins efficiency, I've agreed with that for a long time. I think it's not good business. Our guys are getting called in on the weekends. The taxpayers are paying overtime. And I think the guys need the time off. Myself, they work enough overtime as it is. So we'll go up to number 1, which is the weigh scales. It's not $100,000. Nobody likes to look at, but if council wants to do some calling, and I've talked to some people, I think in the long run, it pays off, sometimes quicker than others. But I've been told, and I don't visit too many transfer stations and where the scales are, but it cleans the place up. It seems to, with that extra person that's on the job all the time, helping people, making sure that they're tagged, looking at their garbage. It makes it more neat and tidy. Has more time to I know we're not driving in somebody's yard, but sometimes our transfer station is pretty messy, and I think it has to do with perhaps, I'll just say, not having the time to do it. So if it's possible in this budget to have that weigh scale, I'd like to see it. Thanks, Peter.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Joel.
Larry, did you have something? You're muted.
First comment I'd like to make through you, Mr. Mayor, is I'd like to commend Peter for coming forward with efficiency strategies. As you know, council's direction has been for all departments to establish and come through with efficiency strategies, which is what Peter's done here. And I would like to comment on that. I think all the things that's been recommended here are good. That's 100,000 sounds like a lot of money, but if these things pay for themselves in a short period of time, and I would think it depends on how busy a transfer station would be, and our 6th line is a busy one. So I'm in favor of the recommendations brought forward. And again, a comment on nice to see efficiency strategies being brought forward. Thank you.
Okay, Barry, go ahead.
Yeah, I have to support that too. We been dragging our hind foot for years down at the 6th line, and some of our garbage is not being put in the right bins. It cost us money. I think, Peter, I don't know whether you mentioned Harold up at Dummer, but he said that when they put it in up there, that, you know, it was less than a year and it paid back. So it's something to look at, and moving forward, I think it's a great thing, because if you go bulk when you go in there, you're going across the scales, and the same when you come back out, you're going to pay for what you took in. The $2 bag tag, I'm not in favor of in the Havelock ward. We already pay a separate pickup here for our own garbage, plus we pay on our taxes for the garbage at the 6th line or wherever. So I don't think we're running a deficit at what we're paying now for bag tags to take our garbage away, because like I say, we are paying extra now, We're paying two places. So I think it's only fair to the taxpayer that we don't put that on there for the, put the weigh scales in down at the 6th line, you know, for the help. I mean, we do pay partially down there anyway. And all the other dumps that are in the municipality. I shouldn't say dumps, transfer stations. And some of all the ones that have been closed up, it still, you know, Havelock board still pays a portion of that too, so. Anyway, I'm just saying I don't think the $2 addition in the Havelock board is fair.
So that might be something to think about, Peter. I know in Norwood, if it's $2 in town, it's $4 for the town people to buy the tags for the waste site, like to go up to the 6th line. It sounds like a nightmare though to me. I think if we can come up with like a number that works for everyone, or if there's no tags and it's just weighing out at the 6th line, you know, it might make a difference there. I don't know, but there's some more thought needs to go into that. But it is time for an increase, I think, right across the board. But whether we're going to get into different tags for town compared to township, I don't think that's the way to go personally, but a little bit more thought into this, but everything is good. I know first time I mentioned about a weigh scale at the 6th line, it was $10,000. Now it's $100,000. At that time, Boyd said it would be scary to have one there because it might cost us more than it's worth. Now it's showing that it pays itself in 6 months, or I don't know about that. I really find that hard to believe unless we're really losing bad right now out there. It doesn't show $100,000 that we're losing every year on that. But anyways, we'll see. It will pay for itself, though. It's a good idea. So Hart and then Barry. Hart.
Oh, sorry, froze up there. Yeah, just my question. Do we really need a full-time staff? To me, that's something that can be covered by a contract position, I think, very easily. I don't think we need 2 full-time staff working at the dump.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Martin. That could be done with contracts for sure, Councillor Webb, but my feeling would be 2 full-time staff there because the one person if we did go ahead with the scales, the one person would not be able to get out of the hut, you know, taking the cars in and out. I know wintertime might be different, but I know summertime there's 300 plus cars going in and out of there. And I think that being said, I think we'd be able to have the second person being trained as well with our backhoe and equipment that would be able to keep the bins packed down and be able to get more in the bins. We're paying a flat rate fee for just the shipping of the bins and then the weight on top. So as much as we can get in those bins is going to save us some money as well. So, but that's something definitely that we can be discussed, whether it be full-time or a contract person for sure.
Yeah. I appreciate there's a lot of work to do there. I think, I don't know if, like I said, the dump warrants 2 full-time positions. I think, you know, we do it other places with contract positions, even roads with you. So yep. I can't see why that couldn't work there, but I'll leave that up to the rest of council.
Yeah. Barry, go ahead, and then Dave.
No, I'm going to have to agree with what Art said, and it's something we're going to have to look at. That's for sure.
Yeah. Okay, Dave, go ahead.
I'll save my question for a later time, but I would like a clarification from Councilor Pomeroy, because I think I missed something, Barry. When you say that, how should I word this? That the village board does pay more for their pickup, no question about that. And I missed the part of the conversation. I guess I didn't understand it, because do you go to the transfer station along with using your garbage in town?
Not very often, but the whole thing of it is I'm paying on our taxes. Everyone in town pays taxes on all the municipal transfer stations. And then the village of Havelock pays extra to have their garbage picked up. And it doesn't go to the transfer station, it goes wherever the contractor goes. Okay?
Yeah, I understand that part. So if someday we could all have garbage pickup and recycling, we would need a transfer station.
That's something I was gonna ask about being added to this, and there's no cost to it as far as working with North Kawartha on looking at that part of it, if there's any way of partnering with them on an RFP to just see what it would cost, because it's expensive to have all these satellite transfer stations, and that's a good example of one that North Kawartha says that at first they were skeptical, but now they really love it and they could never go back, and it's not as expensive as you think. So like Barry said, when you get into area rating and things like that, I know I've heard from people up there, even area rating on the pickup would work for them. We do have issues around Shady Lane being so far away and trying to maintain that. So I think there is an opportunity here with little or no cost as far as other than staff time to look at an RFP for the north there and see how it works. It would kind of work as a satellite project to see if we would want to expand it, or you know, if it didn't work, you can always go back, but it's hard to go back. So, but that's a good point, Dave, as far as I think it's something for the future. But when we're talking about transfer stations, when we're all, we don't have pickup other than in the village, that's why the 6 line is so busy, because that's the only option. And I think that's where the seasonal contract, or not a seasonal contract, just a contract position might work better until we sort out where we're going with it, and instead of getting locked into a full-time employee. So there's still a bit of discussion around this, I think, that needs to happen to move forward, but I think there's good discussion on it. And I think it's really good here, Peter, as far as like Larry said, you know, there's lots of things in here that you're looking at. Maybe between now and the December meeting, we can have some more discussion on whether it's a $2 increase, or I think it's right now it's 6 for 5 or 5 for 6. I know. Anyways, there might be an opportunity to looking at you know, either spreading it out over 2 years, or let's just go for it, and hopefully it'll encourage the recycling side of the process. So, Larry, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just one last comment. I know in the past, over the past years, we've had discussions around collaboration with other municipalities, and Mayor Martin, you touched base on it there a couple of seconds ago. I think that's something that we should get back on the table and have CAO Bob and Pete document further discussion regarding collaboration with other municipalities, whether it's waste reduction or whatever. That we've kind of lost track of that topic of collaborating, and I'd like to see that back on the table at some point through staff.
It is on there right now, Larry. It's just starting up at the county, but it's going to be a organization or review of service delivery. So we will be working with the municipalities too at the county level, and a lot of these things will be tied in together. Peter, you had your hand up?
Yes, just a comment. When I started here, I believe there was only 3 bins down at the 6 line transfer, and there's 6 there now. So it's something just wanted to mention that maybe in the future we would either think of for the pickup in the country or opposed to making maybe some additions to the 6 line to handle the extra or the busier we get in the future. As I know this year has been exceptional with the COVID, and we have had a lot of the cottagers down more often than we're normal to and staying with us, but it is getting busier down there, definitely at the 6 line, and it's something that we should either we should be considering in the future, maybe in the next 3 or 4 years, to make it a little larger or able to handle some more, I guess is what what I'd like to say, or look at the pickup as well. So, but no,
I think everybody felt the growth that you're talking about, Peter. It's happening right across the county as far as numbers of the population here. It's gone up without a doubt, and a lot of people are staying here now, and that's where it's going to show, at the waste site, when you got to get rid of things. So anyway, so whether it stays this way, who knows? But it is that way now. And the numbers, I was wondering about the bins this year, because I'm hearing it from others that it's just crazy how busy everyone is, and it's an obvious thing that the population has changed. So, okay, so Dave, did you have something there, or did anybody else have any more questions with regards to this? So I think we have something to work with there too. And if there's nothing, go ahead, Dave. Muted. You're muted. I hope it was good that what you said there. I couldn't read it.
If that's all with Peter, I'd make a motion to receive, and maybe perhaps a 5-minute water adjustment.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. In between these two, that'll bring an end to what was supposed to happen before lunch, and we could take 5 minutes and come back for the library, fire, and parks and rec. Does that work for everyone? Motion for a 5-minute recess. Moved by Councillor Webb and seconded by Councillor Ellis. All in favor? That's carried. Okay, so we'll come back here at 25 after. Does that work?
Forward with fire department next, Mayor Martin. I think is what we're doing. Is that what we're doing?
Okay, well, we can do that. That way we can fool him so he doesn't get that pager thing that he disappears.
Well, this is it, right? You never know.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll move into fire then first then.
Okay.
Not like I went in order today anyway, so we can do that. So Ray, welcome. Is he there? Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
How come you can't see me?
I don't know. Nobody's complaining though.
Ray, you have to turn your camera on.
Aha, there we go.
There you go. There he is.
Okay.
Looking good. Looking good.
Yes, you're looking well.
So Ray, there's so your budget right now is showing a 7.2% increase. There's a couple of things there listed. Something that was new to me was a complete fire master plan. Didn't even know we had one, but then when I seen it and seen Barry's name was on it, 1994. It is a little outdated, but I don't know if this is the year for it. But anyways, I didn't even know what it was, but it makes sense to me. But it's the number that I heard, I think last week, was a lot of money. So anyways, if you wanted to speak to your budget.
Well, just regarding the master fire plan, that was a number that me and Wendelin came up with because they vary so much how far you want to go with it and how much in depth you want to go with it. So that was just sort of a number that we kind of picked because I asked around other townships and stuff like that, and they were lower, they were higher. So this was kind of a middle number. But I do think we should do it because it would, it goes over everything from the fire stations to the personnel in the fire stations to the training to the apparatus to the level of service that's set out by council. It covers everything.
Okay, it could be a timely thing as far as with the changes that are happening around the municipality. But like I say, it was new to me. It was kind of neat to go through it and see some of the names on there and you know, and what was involved in it. So I'm sure they've changed a lot now from then. But anyways, what's council's thoughts on that? Dave, go ahead.
Well, I'm sure Councillor Pomeroy will have some thoughts on this also. He was involved in the last one. I think on a whole, we need master plans to know what our jobs are, what we're supposed to be doing and how we're supposed to be doing them. We went through master plans, the township has required them for other departments. And it's a chunk of change, there's no doubt about that. I would think that Ray has probably did some discovery on other fire departments if they have them, and he could comment on that. But if it's a necessary tool, I think we should take a serious look at it. That's all. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Any other comments with regards to that? Barry, do you have anything to add to it? Like I say, I seen your name. You were the Reeve then when that was done. You're muted, so you didn't have this technology then, did you?
And sure didn't. I'm just as bad as the fire chief. He can't get on quick neither. So you're going by the old master plan. But anyway, your budget is up 7.27%. So where can you cut?
Nowhere.
Yes, you can. Like, I've said all along, every department should be looking at saving money, not spending all you got and then going for more, because the last 2 years, I think you would be probably over 13%, according to my figures, or around there. And it's just keeps going up and up and up. So I would like you to take a look at it anyway, personally, and see where you can scratch out something. I know it's way over inflationary. That's my own opinion.
So Ray, does that include the increase for the capital, like for the trucks and that we're finding that we're under budget on? Is there nothing in there on that either yet?
No.
No.
Oh. So the other thing was, so this master plan, I'm sure there's a reserve there that we could probably pull some money from. I'm not sure what happened with, we had money allocated last year for something that didn't happen. And it's supposed to happen this year, but that should be in the budget from last year that we could possibly access. I don't know.
Yeah, the master fire plan was coming out of money that was already sitting there. It shouldn't be affecting any of the percentage there.
Okay.
To my understanding, most of the increase is in the wage part of it.
Okay.
So I think Wendell can answer that question a little better.
Okay, Wendell, and then I'll go to Hart.
So most of the increases with the wage categories, because there was reorganization for admin staff, where last year there was an amount of 25,000 as a lump sum transfer from admin to fire, where this year with the reorganization of staff, there's a 30% allocation from that admin staff member, which also includes all your CPP, EI, WSIB, and all the benefits, etc. So that is also impacting this budget because it's the true figure of the 30% with the reorganization that was done.
Oh, so the numbers last year, it wasn't sitting there then? It was out of a grant or?
There was 25,000 allocated, but now it's 30% of everything. So there was just a lump sum figure last year of 25,000, where the 30% is actually over that $25,000 mark, which is increasing those wage categories. And also there was a reduction from the miscellaneous revenues in fire. We had $12,000 there last year, and we reduced it to $7,000 because we didn't know with COVID and everything if we would hit those targets of 12. So there is a reduction there as well in the revenues. And then some other things that are affecting our insurance and dispatching has increased a bit.
Okay. Art, you had something?
Yeah, the 25,000 transferred from admin. Is that covered under the transfer from reserve? I'm like, I don't see it in the ledger. So how
So
is that?
last year in 2020, we put $25,000 in the operating budget for fire as a transfer from admin to fire, because that admin person was captured fully in admin when we did our projections. So this year, what we did is it's a 30% split.
Yep.
So we've incorporated all the CPP EI where we never did that last year.
Okay. Second page, office supplies, $46,000.
Okay, so that is where we're capturing the COVID expenses right now. So that we just put it there to capture it in a line item to make sure that it was captured, but that is not really fire department expenses. That's going to be covered with the COVID grant we got.
Okay, yeah, so, okay. So is it fair to say that we're gonna be substantially under budget here, even though I know the numbers aren't completed yet, but I mean.
Yes.
Okay. And then as somebody's already referenced, do we have a figure in terms of what we need to put towards the reserves in terms of bringing them up to where we want them? Or percentage?
Well, I think we would have to sit down with Ray and look at when it gets closer to the end of the budget process.
Yep.
To see what the actual potential surplus would be here.
Okay.
And how that would flow into the reserve, and that could fund some of that with the fire trucks, et cetera, in future years being costing more than we anticipated.
Okay, I know everything changes with COVID. Ray, is there anywhere we saw like a real, like, I'm trying to go through the numbers, but is there anywhere we saw a real spike in terms of our costs because of COVID? I see most things went down probably because weren't doing as much, but was there anywhere where, you know, like, oh, I don't know, cleaning supplies or stuff like that, or masks for the guys, or
Sorry, it was just mainly like medical and masks and cleaning supplies. Yes, that kind of went up.
Okay, yep, thank you.
Okay, Larry, do you have your hand up? Muted.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So I had some questions for Wendland earlier, as I went through our budget package, and then I went back and started at the first again, which unfortunately was for Ray. And I started picking at poor Ray. Didn't bother you, did it, Ray?
No.
Anyway, a lot of it did hinge around wages, right? And I kind of understand the reasoning for the increases, but I'm questioning, like, when we look down through, because of the increase of staff there from admin, the cost increase, for an example, for OMERS, for an example, from 2020 to this budget, there's a great increase there. And all the benefit stuff that's listed under expenses has quite a jump, and it's kind of hard to imagine or understand that large amount of increase. That's my first question. Should we be looking at those numbers because of the large increase? And I'll pass that to Wendland.
So OMERS, CPP, WSIB, EHT, and all those wage categories were not affected in the 2020 budget when we had put in the min person. We had only put a flat rate of $25,000, where this year we determined what that actual percentage of work was being done. So it was determined at 30% through HR. And so that admin person is 30% in fire, 50% in public works, and 20% in admin. So all of the expenses that flow with that person have now been affected in each budget. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It does, it just seems extreme. That's, maybe it's just I'm not familiar with those normal costs, but it seemed extreme. So another question I have is, from last year's budget to this year, the excess or funds, tax dollars that were not used in different categories, that flowed back into a reserve?
It will, once council approves that resolution in an upcoming council meeting.
Okay,
If
'cause
that's passed.
I don't know how we're expected to accept or agree on a budget when there's that, for an example, as an unknown, which will affect the budget, right?
And that number, I think the one that you're referring to, Larry, is a lot lower than what I thought it was. It's 25,000. I think it's the one number that we're hearing there. It wasn't like a full-time person. I thought it was higher too, and that makes sense. Wendell, now that you explained it, as far as the percentages for each, where that went.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, sorry. But there's different little things as you walk through the budget. For an example, conventions. Well, there was no conventions last year, but there was money in the budget for a convention. So
We
does
went
that money
last year.
go back into a reserve?
There was conventions. We all went on conventions last year. I think that's where I got COVID. So, we were in Toronto last year, so twice.
Yeah, I'll defer that to Ray. You can explain conventions.
So the conventions, like, yes, ours got canceled. It is gone up this year is because there's going to be a deputy, and that person should be going to these conventions to get their education and stuff like that. That's why that has gone up. But would last year's fall into that? Possibly back into a reserve.
Okay.
You can take our training, for example, Larry. If you take our training, a lot of the training got canceled over at the training center and stuff, but those guys are still going to need training. So that money is just going to get pushed over into 2021. But then them guys, I'm hoping that group that was supposed to go this year is going to go next year, plus the group that's supposed to go in 2021. So that money is going to be all spoken for. Like if you just use the training, for example.
Okay. That's all the questions I have for now. Just, you know, as Councillor Pomeroy indicated, we need to look at increases of 7% and how we're going to make changes or trim the fat to some degree. I know training is important, but I'm sure if we go through this budget line by line, there's got to be some savings there somewhere to get it more in line with our inflationary numbers that we're trying to establish.
Okay, Art, you had something, and then Barry.
Yeah, I agree with what Mary's getting at, in that, you know, I think some of these things sometimes what we do is we inflate them. Like I'll use his example on Olmer. Do we really expect a 30% increase in that? Because that's what we're budgeting for.
No, it's a 30% person, right, Wendell?
So basically admin ate those costs in 2020.
No, I understand, but what I'm saying
So-
is that you're increasing it by 30%. So we're expecting that to go up by that much.
But you got to remember that you're reallocating it from admin. So once we get to the admin budget, you'll see a reduction in the admin overall. So it's overall, when you take all the budgets and put them together, it's one pie. It doesn't matter how you slice the pie, it's one pie. So it's
I
just
know.
moving it from one to another. So it may look like it's increasing Ray's budget, but on the other end, on the admin side, it's a reduction. It's just shifting it to where it should actually be.
Okay, well, I thought we were just dealing with fire right now, but
No,
I-
but
I guess
just
like,
so
no, I
that you can
understand what
follow
you're
the
trying to
flow.
say, but I'm
Yeah.
just dealing with fire and I'm just saying you've increased the Omer's budget by 30%. Are we really expecting to pay that much based on the shifting we've done here? Because that seems rather low. If the whole department last year was 14,000, I don't know how a 30% shift from admin would drive it up 30%.
Because we're going to a person that wasn't there last year. We're adding.
Okay, I'll check the numbers, I guess, when I get them next year, but I like to his point, like little things like that in terms of uniforms, right? Like last year we had 1,200 for uniforms, we didn't spend any. So why isn't that money just shifted into 2021? Like it shouldn't be shifted into reserves. That's what we got to get something here in terms of, because otherwise we're charging the taxpayer twice for uniforms. We charged them last year and we're charging them again this year. We still haven't bought uniforms.
Right?
They are coming. I couldn't get people here to size the people. So that there's still going to be money taken out of that uniform.
No, and I'm not to get on you, Ray. I'm just saying in terms of doing this, right? When I see there's money budgeted and then there's a zero next to it, and then the year after we have more money budgeted for what we didn't spend any, that's, and this is more of a, like I said, an accounting thing more than anything, I think. But I think we need, as council, get some kind of policy in terms of this, and to help the department heads out too, in terms of giving them some guidance in terms of what we're looking for. But I don't like this just rolling into these reserves. We've been talking about this for 2 or 3 years now, but we're still in the same spot. The money just gets rolled into reserves and, we come back to the taxpayer the next year and ask for things like that. So I don't know.
I think that's what we're trying to find when it was the dedicated, like how much is dedicated, how much is there. Like, we've heard that, a couple of capital projects are going to fall short when we go to purchase the equipment. So that's understandable, but all these other things, I think what council's trying to say here is we need to understand if it's just getting rolled into a reserve, there should be money there and pushed into the next year's.
Yeah, and that's what Ray and I have to sit down with, because we'll have a better idea in a week or two, knowing what the potential surplus will be once he has his purchase of his PPE and all those different items. Then we can get a little bit more honed in approach of how much the potential surplus will be, and maybe that will suffice in reducing that risk of the fire equipment in future years, the additional cost that might be able to help fund that with the surplus this year.
And I think that's why the budgets never get passed before the new year, because there's a lot of numbers coming in before the end of the year. But Barry, go ahead.
Yeah, there's one statement that Ray made there. The group that was supposed to go for training couldn't go. So then those people are going to go the following year, plus the ones that were scheduled for the following year. So do we have to have all of them go the same year? Like,
they wouldn't be going the same year because they were supposed to go in 2020, and then you got the other group going in 2021. But because they couldn't go in 20, they all have to go in 2021 if they're allowed.
That's what I'm saying. Because now you're doubling up.
You're just trying to keep everything on schedule.
I know what you're saying, but we couldn't keep the schedule last year, so those people are going to go. So now it's a numbers game. It's a number. So can we afford for everybody to go in 1 year? Like, this money's already been rolled back into reserves.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you got whatever that money set aside for those four guys to go, that money's already sitting there, so we should be able to afford it because they were supposed to have gone. I'm just budgeting this year for the next 4 to go.
Understandably, but you didn't send the other 4, so we should have that money that, it's crazy because now that money is going to reserves for the people that didn't go this year.
No, it's gonna be, the ones that were supposed to go this year, it would be spent on them, and I guess it's up to Ray to sell it to council that we would like to have 8 go instead of 4 this year. The 4 that were supposed to go last year, I'm just using the 4 number. If there's 4 last year and you're hoping to send 4 this year, there's an opportunity to send 8 this year if it's needed. And if you can justify that, I guess is what Barry's saying. You know, that's what we need to hear. Like so we're not spending any new money from last year. It's just getting those people to go that were supposed to go. And then keeping.
Does that bring us down a percentage point though, if only 4 went?
Well, because you've only budgeted for 4 to go in operating. And then the 4 from 2020 would be already sitting in the reserve surplus.
I know you keep going back saying it's sitting in reserves, but we're ending up paying.
But it's already been collected in the 2020 budget.
So is that what you had this year, Ray, is 4 for this year too? Like, and then plus the ones that were supposed to go last year?
Yeah, I don't have the exact number. I'm just using 4 as an example.
Yep.
Okay. So that's something, go ahead, Larry.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, direct cost of labor is one of the things that, as we walk through different departments, I try to focus on. So looking at the fire department, direct cost of labor for the deputy fire chief. Was there money in the budget last year to pay for a deputy fire chief?
No.
Yes, it was in the 2020 budget.
Administration though, was it?
No, the deputy fire chief was in the 2020 budget.
Well, that's what I was talking about earlier then. So
That's why I'm saying, like, we'll have to look at what the surplus will be.
that's exactly, so that's what I think council's talking about here is there was money from last year and we're trying to find out where it's at. So I was understanding it came from admin, and then this year was the real numbers would be shown in the fire budget.
The amount from admin was the admin support.
Okay. All right, so that's what I think council's talking about, and that's what we need to clear up between now and December is where that money that was allocated already. It should be carrying over into this year's budget for the person that was supposed to, we didn't end up getting. So there's money sitting there that needs to be applied to the 2021 budget that's already there. I'll go with Ray.
Sorry, just one last thing and then I'll get that. So do we have a deputy fire chief presently?
We have.
All right.
Go ahead, Ray.
Okay. Back to the money that was set aside for the deputy chief. That was the money that I'm suggesting that we use for the master fire plan. The question, do we have a deputy fire chief? Yes, we have a deputy fire chief in play right now, volunteer.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I think there's a bit more discussion to happen here, and some of it you got to be careful with. So I think we better clarify those numbers and really understand it better. Did you have anything, Dave?
Yes, I've listened to it all. I understand Willen and I understand Ray. I don't have a problem with what they're saying. I can understand where the 4 were paid for. They didn't get to go. We still have the money. They still need to go. There's an extra 4 that has to go. If they don't go, they're not going to be much use to the fire department.
Yeah.
If you don't train me how to run a diesel train, I can't get on and run it. So if you want to have them, have the tools, you're going to have to pay for them. If you don't want a fire department, well, you'll have to put up with the liability. I don't have a problem here.
That's right. I think it's pretty straightforward here, and it's just the clarification of the person for the deputy last year that we didn't end up putting in play. It sounds like the money, if I've got this right, then was applied towards the master plan instead of keeping it towards the personnel for next year when it is put into play. So it's just that's what we were trying to understand, and where the money that was before last year that didn't get used, it sounds like it's getting applied to the master plan. Is that right, Ray?
Yeah.
That's what we were trying to find out. So if you left the master plan as a new thing and left that other money towards the personnel, it would be a little difference in where the money's still being used, but it's just used in a different spot here. And I don't have a problem with it. Training is really important, and that's one thing I would hate to slip on. And if whatever you've got in there towards that, if we can do it, that's fine. Just needed to understand that part of it and move forward. So, anybody else have anything for Ray? Go ahead, Larry.
Yes, just for clarity in my own head, when we talked about the master plan at the start of the conversation for the fire department budget, Wendland had commented about where the money was coming from for the master plan. Can you refresh my mind there, Wendland, please?
So the master plan would come from the reserve. So it doesn't have a percentage impact on the 7% increase.
Okay.
But there would be excess monies over and above left over from the allocation of the deputy fire chief. So that's why I'm saying some of that money we'd have to look at and see what that number would be to maybe use that towards funding going forward for future fire equipment that's more expensive than we originally anticipated.
Okay, so we could take that dollars and cents that's now in the reserve and utilize it for something in the fire department if we didn't go this term or this budget with the master plan for the fire department. That money that's sitting there that was to pay a deputy fire chief could be utilized then for an example, to pay the deputy fire chief who's presently now in place.
That's a council decision that once you pass that resolution in December for it to flow to the reserve, then it's council's discretion on how those reserve funds are used. And that has to be, any money taking out of the reserve has to be by council resolution.
So again, this money that is parked there that should have been paying a deputy fire chief that wasn't in place, we could take that money and utilize it somewhere else. I guess what I'm trying to do is help Ray out here to get his numbers down, because he's way high, 7.27 or something. I'm just trying to help you, Ray.
So, okay. So you
Anyway, comments.
work on it over.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Were you finished, Larry? Okay. Anybody else questions for Ray here? Surprised he hasn't got his pager to go off yet. He normally would have had it go off by now. It disappeared.
I think the battery's dead.
Can't afford batteries for it.
Yeah.
He can, so they're in the budget.
Yeah. Okay, so is there anything else for Ray? So we'll keep working on this and see what we can come back with for December. So
Yep. through you, Mr. Mayor,
Yep.
I still maintain that get ready to go through line by line and see if he can bring us down a wee bit. It's got to help.
All right then. It's you can get a low budget master plan. Maybe you can get one for 10 grand or something like that, right? Maybe you could do it yourself.
I could.
Yeah. Yeah. Do a real good one. Okay, so motion to receive Ray's budget for today, moved by Councillor Webb and seconded by Councillor Ellis. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, thanks, Ray.
Thanks, Ray.
See you later, guys.
Thanks, Rick.
All right, so we do have Ryan here. If we don't have anyone here from the library, I just wonder if we could jump into the Parks and Rec one. I think it'll be the next time consuming one. If that's all right with council, we'll do it that route. And then Bob, do you have something whenever I see your
Yep, through
screen
you,
light up?
yep, through you, Mayor Martin, I think we can proceed with Parks and Recreation.
Okay, thank you. Hello, Ryan. Are you?
Hello.
Hi, yeah, if you want to start off here, it's so you're showing, I'm not sure, I'm just looking for your, trying to catch up here. So you had a 13.98% increase, and I know some of this has to go with the reorg that we did, so.
Yeah.
So part of the increase of the 13.98%, or monetarily it's $74,447, is the reorganization of staffing, but also there is an extra amount of $15,042 that Ryan has put in to try to top up his contribution to his reserves to cover off expenditures in the master plans for that are coming up with Parks and Rec, and I'll let him delve into that a little bit deeper. So those are the major driving factors in the budget, and the rest of the operating is pretty much almost the same as last year.
Okay, Ryan.
Yeah, good morning, Mayor Martin, members of council. Yeah, so just to kind of further to Gwendolyn's comments regarding the increase there. Gwendolyn, can you just confirm the 74,000, is that the dollar figure that makes up the percentage increase?
That's what makes up the 13.98%.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, I had decided to add more money to the reserve in response to some of the recommendations that we will receive from the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. I thought that that would be the council's priority at this point. I know that you have been waiting patiently to receive that plan and are excited to proceed with some of those recommendations that are put forth. So I just thought it was important to be proactive and add additional funds to that account so we could actually accomplish some of those recommendations. So that was about $15,000 increase there. And then the other major factor for that you're seeing increase is that the loss in revenue at for the ice rental services at the community center. So we kind of projected that it would be a little bit less than half of what we normally would collect in revenue. So that's an additional $30,000 there as well. So I mean, between the wages and the revenue loss due to the COVID-19 pandemic and the additional funds that we thought we should put reserves, that's kind of where it comes from. Everywhere else are basically their fixed costs. Those are basically costs of keeping the buildings open and having staff there, and that allows us enough money to do proper maintenance on municipally owned facilities. So
the operating expenses, Ryan, for the you know, for losses due to COVID, are we taking any of that money out of the COVID funds there to help offset that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to let Wendell kind of, she's been handling all the restart funding.
So the COVID grant money that we received is only based on 2020. We cannot use anything of it for 2021.
Okay, well, we're gonna have to talk to them about that because we're gonna have, you know, the overruns are gonna run right into this year too. So we'll have to talk to someone about making sure that's accessible. Otherwise, we have a ton of
I'm
money.
assuming that based on what's going to wash out with the pandemic, that they will be coming with further direction, because whatever monies we don't use, we're directed to put them in a reserve, but they haven't given us any details on how anything that's left over, what if we can use it towards 2021 yet.
Well, that between that 265,000 or whatever, and then the 100,000 we got last week, it's the 100,000 last week was specifically to help with some of the projects that we're doing with regards to trying to get an office open. So it can go to capital, but that first part was more for operating. And I said to him, we're not going to use all that operating money. So what do we have to do with it? So I think they got to come up with a plan there, because we're not the only ones that we need it for the capital side too, to try and let us operate safely. So so we'll have to keep an eye on that, and maybe before the next meeting we can offset some of these numbers to help out the optics of it, I guess, is what it is. So Hart, you had something?
So I was just wondering, in terms of the revenues, what was the discrepancy there? Is a transfer from reserves? Is that from Ryan going back to parks, or like a rev 20 were 2,206,000? Now we're at 51 for next year.
Because there's at year end, there's entries done for the transfer reserves for any capital items that is spent throughout the year.
Mhm.
So that's why there's no entry there yet until all the money or projects are completed by year end.
So we expect the 2021 revenue to be higher than 51.
Sorry, you cut out there.
Sorry, the 2021 revenue
Yeah.
for parks are 51. Is that what you're saying, or?
It's really, it breaks up there every time you get to the number
Sure.
part. Say the number part first, and then
Okay, 51,000. Will that number go up for 2021?
So we haven't put what have we put in for capital? I don't think there was carry forward amounts, so.
I'm just wondering, because like you said, 2020, we have 206,000, and this year, 2021, we only expect 51,000. So I didn't know if that had to do with Ryan's, maybe Ryan's.
No, that all has to do with transfers from the reserves.
Okay. That's a substantial decrease, isn't that?
yeah. And then there was some things in the other that might come into play, or they're open for discussion, as with regards to the dock and proposed splash pad, and there was the Matheson work on the Matheson property. There was discussion about that too, as far as so where that comes from. I think that's what we're gonna have to figure out over the next couple of weeks, is, you know, if there's.
Yes, because there's the grant opportunity that we were talking about, using it for the Matheson Park.
Yeah.
So that would have to be built in as a potential grant opportunity.
Yeah, and that was with regards to making our trail safe due to COVID. Yeah, so it's a work in progress. And Larry, you had something?
That's through you, Mr. Mayor. Just so I got it clear in my head, lost revenues for the arena for 2020 is covered by COVID funding,
Did you say loss in revenues? Sorry.
loss of revenue.
Yes, in 2020, yes, it's covered.
Okay. So that shouldn't affect the 2021 budget, right?
Well, in the 2021 budget, we reduced the revenues because of the spaced out times for when groups can go in there. You can't just back to back do it like you did last year.
Yeah, so
That must be kind of hard to calculate because, for an example, how much ice rental, how much ice is being rented versus the distancing and all the things you have to do to be safe. So
our whole budget,
I don't know how you would calculate that.
that's what our whole budget relies on, the best guess from the year before and compiling all the data that we've accumulated. Everything is a guess really as far as rentals and things like that. So we rely on Ryan going back on the past data to try and come up with that. And I think that's his best guesstimate. Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councilor Morris's comment about the rentable hours. Yeah, so with the current protocols in place, the amount of rentable hours have been reduced on a daily basis. However, when it comes to budgeting, we do have regular weekly scheduled rentals. So that's revenue that we have a commitment from these user groups that they will be taking the ice. So through that, you can basically subtract what we typically would receive from minor hockey and the figure skating club, and so you just reduce that amount of hours, and that's how we come up with our budget.
Okay, Hart.
Oh, yeah, just one last question. So in the general ledger, you have two transfers. I have a transfer from reserve, and then it says, I guess that would be parks. It just says PAR. I'm just trying to get the two. There's two transfers here from a reserve, so I'm trying to figure out what reserves they were transferred from.
So one would be a transfer from reserve, like the regular reserve for equipment and that type of
Okay,
thing.
which one is the regular one? Like, which one is? I want to know about the 108,000 is what I want to know about.
So the 108,000 is the parkland reserve fund.
Okay.
So it's the reserve fund, not the reserve. And then the next one, the 14,370 from last year is from the reserve. Oh, sorry, I have it reversed. 108 is from the regular reserve, and then the 14 is from the parkland reserve fund.
Okay, so with that, that's the 14, that would be from Ryan's working fund that we're talking about?
No, so we have cash in lieu of parkland when someone does a severance. So we charge $1,000 for each of those. So that goes into the parkland reserve fund. So we had that 14,000 was what was left over from the master plan from Parks and Rec. That's where that came from.
So really last year in revenues, then we really only had about 100,000 because, right? I got 108,000, we had 100, almost 110,000 we transferred to reserves from reserves.
Well, I don't know what those total figures will be for actuals yet because some of the projects weren't done.
No, I'm just saying moving forward though, like, I mean, we're running at an operating cost of around 700,000 where I was led to believe we're somewhere around taking in 200,000 or somewhere in there, but really we're only taking in about 100,000 in terms of revenue, right? As far as I can see.
Oh yeah, minus the reserve.
Even without COVID, I mean, even if there was no COVID, right? So are we doing that on a yearly basis? Are we propping that up with reserve money or not?
The only time we usually take from the reserves is for capital items.
Okay. Okay.
Any other comments from council here? So I don't know, like I say, there is a couple other things on there that there's going to be some discussion, I'm sure, with regards to docks. And one question I had was, we should be calling the tower rental agreement that we have at Rotary Park. I think it's something worth looking at to see if they're going to update the rental agreement, because I've never seen one that low in the past here, and with the way things are going, it's only going to get used more. So there should be some help there too. Maybe it's not a lot, but it's just every little bit will help, right? So
We'd have to look up that agreement.
yeah, I think we should, because I think it's $5,000 is allotted there, or just over $5,000, and I've never seen one that low. And so things should change with the times, or that should come due soon, I would think. So anyways, is there anything else from council here with regards to the Parks and Rec budget? It's going to be a challenging year. It's hard to predict where we're going to go, but it's good to see it's open and hearing people talk about back to some fun times. Other than it's a little different. So there's Hart and then Wendland.
Oh, sorry, you just brought up a couple of the issues with leaving that till a later meeting here.
Sorry.
Yeah, are you the docs and that you just mentioned? Are we just leaving that till the next meeting before we get into other things for Ryan's budget, or?
Yeah, I think it's up to council if there's anything. Right now, it's still in there, and I'm sure there'll be some. We'll have some more discussion. It'll give us a little more time to see where we're at with M&R on that.
Yep.
So, Wendland, you had something?
That was my question, was direction from council on the docks. I know Brian and I have talked, and he's going to get some quotations together from some different suppliers in the area on docks. So we just need further clarification whether to add that in or not.
Sure. Okay, Barry, go ahead.
Yeah, we had quite a discussion the last time on this, Mr. Mayor, and I was under the impression that maybe we weren't going to do docks because, we have some people that are opposed and some people are for, but I still maintain that we don't want to start something like we have over at Mile of Memories and at Round Lake. You know yourself, you can't put any more than about 3 vehicles and trailers in that parking spot. And we have that throughout. Not only that, there's a liability we're going to have to assume as soon as you put a dock in, and then we have the manpower to put them in, take them out. We've sufficed on doing it the old-fashioned way for a long time here, and we have improved, where the boats back into the water. But as far as the rest of it, I know we could be just asking for trouble by okaying docks, because it's not only going to be the people that bring their boats. You're going to have increased swimmers, noise and the whole ball of wax. And I think we do owe our lake people. Some people say we don't, but we do, we have to look after them too. I know it's not their lake. I've heard that statement before, and I have to agree with it, but we don't want to create something that we don't have to create.
So yeah, and that's so on the council side of things, we were talking about docks, and you're right. The only one there is the one that we had the public input that we need to upgrade one, and whether it's ours or M&R's, there are ratepayers, and we need to work with M&R to try and look after that one dock possibly, or and the others will be all up to council as far as if you want to make a motion to pull it off, that can be done. I don't know whether we're there yet, that's all, but I think it's still kind of there for discussion, go ahead, Barry.
Yeah, well, that's the same with the dock that's on the M&R property. You know, we've hashed it around. You know, everyone else in the lake associations, they all take up a collection and look after the roads. Now, I don't know how many cottages would be on the island out there, probably 40 or so. So they don't have any road to look after. Maybe they could take up a collection to put in a new dock for themselves, but we don't own that property neither. And I think if they were really serious, they would go after M&R and get the approval and not try to put the township on the hook for having the property and a dock so that we're liable. Because soon as if council decides to go ahead and make an agreement with the M&R, which the cottage association, or which the people that want it, should be going after M&R and keep the liability away from HBM. That's my feeling on the one at Kosh Lake.
Okay, Larry?
Without prolonging it here, through you, Mr. Mayor, I think that's how it was left at our last discussion, that we were going to possibly get M&R involved. And I agree with Councillor Pomeroy, like as we stated last council meeting for budget, that there's probably 40 or 50 cottages on those islands, or that island. And so Councillor Pomeroy brings a good point up. And I think that's how it was supposed to be left, that get M&R involved and see if they're going to come on board to look after their dock.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, that's what we can still have discussion with M&R. It's a hard subject. It's the same as Mile of Memories. We issue building permits and they don't have anywhere to park. So now we're looking at buying a parking lot for them. You know, it's just one of those things that maybe a lot of thought wasn't gone into when we started issuing building permits for these properties when they didn't have a place to access. So this one on Kosh has an access point, but it doesn't have a dock to go with it, or it did have, and it is an M&R thing. So it's a real tough thing. It's like Fish Hatchery Road. It's the Ministry of No Resources is once again coming up here and offering something that's not adequate. So there was Dave and then Larry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, well, I don't agree, and yet I do agree with Councillor Pomeroy. I think we should have a dock system, but it was pretty obvious at the last meeting that that's not going to be a go. So I can support the dock on Kosh Lake if we're not going to support other docks. So if the people on Kosh Lake on that island need a dock, I guess they're going to have to talk to the M&R and keep us out of it.
Okay. So Larry, go ahead.
Just through you, Mr. Mayor, maybe a motion to direct staff to contact M&R. So at least we have that dialogue in place so they know what we're talking.
Okay. Moved by Councillor Ellis. Are you seconding that, Councillor Pomeroy, or are you?
No, I got a question.
Okay.
It shouldn't be up to us to contact M&R. It should be the people on the island that contact them. As soon as we contact them and we supply all the information, and you know where it's going to come back to, they're not going to do anything. But if that group wants a dock, let them contact the MNR and keep us out of it. We can help them, but I don't want the liability of that neither. So it's
the liability thing is sometimes a little bit overrated. Like, I mean, we put an outhouse there, and if somebody falls in it and drowns, we're going to be liable. So maybe we shouldn't put an outhouse there either. There's just so many things around it that we need to, you know, I totally understand. And if that's, so we do have a motion here. Councillor Ellis said about contacting M&R. It's the same, I think what they referred to is the beach is M&R's property. We look after it. The library is M&R property. We have it. This is just another piece of M&R thing that they're looking for help. And you're right. I think they should be contacting M&R, but we should be helping them with it. There are ratepayers and they're not getting help from M&R. So I think Councillor Ellis is on the right track. The least we could do as a municipality is help them with M&R because, you know, like I say, these properties are all M&Rs in the long run, but they need help. So, so there is a mover to contact M&R. Is there a seconder for that? If seconded by Councillor Webb. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. So, all right. So, is there anything else for Ryan here? Barry, go ahead.
I got through you, Mr. Mayor, but I have to go through what Deputy Mayor Giroux has said, that if there's not going to be any docks, that they should be all pulled from the.
And
So,
we haven't committed to a dock. So we haven't committed to a dock. We're going to help our ratepayers. That's all.
Yeah. But I have to go along with what Deputy Mayor said, and if we're not going to approve any docks, the one at Gosh Lake.
Yeah.
Should,
So you
should
want to
go
move that,
to,
and you can move that, Barry,
I'll
that
make-
we,
I'll make that motion.
okay, that there's no docks in the budget for 2021. Moved by Councillor Pomeroy. Seconder. Deputy Mayor Giroux. All in favor of that? Well, comment?
Oh, yeah, question. Just the comment was made, when was it discussed that there was no docks wanted for this budget? I don't,
Well, that's what Dave was saying, that it's.
did I miss the last
we're not-
meeting or?
Eh?
Last meeting.
No, I remember, I remember what I remember was there was no, what we said was there was no docks for Round Lake, Belmont Lake, other lakes like that, but I thought it was pretty clear that the people of Kosh Lake were, you know, decided that they wanted that dock fixed. So I understand with the hesitation in terms of the other lakes because we hadn't really discussed it with them. But
Yeah.
now we're just, it seems like some of us are getting mad, you know, and just kind of stomping our feet here a little bit, so.
Okay, Dave, go ahead.
For clarification for Councillor Webb, we've never put any money in the dock at Kosh Lake. So I don't see how we can put in taxpayers' money for one lake and we do another. So.
Well, I understand that, Dave.
That's my point. That's my point. I'm not getting mad. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
For me, I can't justify taxpayers' money going into a dock that we never put money into before. That's my point.
Yeah, no, I respect that. All I'm saying is that the people from Kosh Lake have asked us to address this problem. Just as certain people at Round Lake and Belmont Lake have asked us to address the same problem. So I don't know why we wouldn't address it. And that's all I'm saying, so.
So you totally understand. We have Barry, go ahead to the motion. The motion was made that we.
Yeah, I understand that. I was just gonna say, get on with it because.
So we have a mover and a seconder on that. That was moved by Councillor Pomeroy and seconded by Deputy Mayor Giroux. That we don't have docks in the budget this year. So Larry, all in favor? All in favor? Okay, carried. So all right, so but we did agree to contact them and if we can help them, Art. Not, okay.
Oh, I'm not,
No, that's,
it's a decision,
I hear you.
no, I'm just saying it's a decision of council. I'm not mad. I thought that the last time when we talked about it, I didn't hear much pushback about Kosh Lake. I thought the discussion was around, you know, Belmont Round and these other lakes, which I understand. But everything I've heard, you know, coming to our council was, I haven't heard one person say, don't replace the dock at Kosh Lake. I've heard, yes, it's a cost and we've never done that before, but I've never heard somebody say, don't do that. So I thought that was a little weird.
So Bob, you wanted to comment to that?
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin, just to clarify, at previous council meetings, staff was directed to contact MNRF. And we have done so, and we are expecting response. So that will be forthcoming to council. We'll see where that goes.
So we'll have council initiative money. Maybe we can use that. Anyways, it's not a dead subject, but it's just halfway there. So Larry, go ahead.
Well, just one last comment. Just making sure that the communication with M&R is clear that the HBM are not in the dock business.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So if everybody's okay, we'll try and go through the library budget. It's a huge increase. I don't know whether we can deal with that, but 0.75%.
Yeah.
Take notice there, Ryan. 0.75.
I wouldn't mind if Ryan stayed on the line because the library has some questions regarding the facilities capital budget. So anyways, thank you very much for inviting me to speak on behalf of the library. As every other division of this municipality has suffered, the library was impacted by closure, I'm not going to go ad nauseum. Anyways, so one of the things that we didn't do this year, which is a significant dollar amount, was our capital replacement of all the computers, which was $20,000. So that's been carried over. We're requesting a budget per Wendelin, so keep me out of trouble, Wendelin, of $117,540. And that represents a 3.71% increase.
Yeah, you got a wrong number there.
I do? Well,
Yeah.
see, that's why you get paid the big bucks to, okay.
So it's 121,896, and it's a 0.75% increase.
Okay. Okay, I was looking at the wrong area. I apologize.
That's okay.
No, you're all right. I see it on mine too.
Sorry about that. We have looked to decrease where we could. And one of the big items is cleaning, which is account 5832 for $12,350. And we understand that there's an effort going on to provide one-stop cleaning effort at a much reduced cost.
Okay.
Other than that, everything is for what's happened this year, projected for 2021. And the only thing that we did not make a decision on, or because we weren't where we did discuss it, was Ryan's area, which is the capital budget for Havelock Library of $26,850 and Cordova of $11,150. So I guess our only caveat, we understand we all need to maintain our areas, but can we look to be as frugal as possible and not do it if it isn't required? I guess that's my point. So I don't know what Ryan has to say on that, but.
Okay, Ryan, I'm not sure. Go ahead. Do you have anything to add to that, Ryan?
Yeah, sure. I guess I can just maybe provide a little bit of background on where the capital items came from. Back in 2018, council adopted a facility condition assessments plan. So we had an engineer come in and review 8 of the municipally owned facilities, and they put all those facilities on a 30-year life cycle program where we would do preventative maintenance on those facilities to make sure that they were maintained in a safe, adequate condition for the public to use. So the number is a little bit high in both those areas now because we're playing catch up. Because as I said, it was adopted in 2018 and now we're moving into 2021. So the plan is a realistic plan to do maintenance at those facilities. It's just right now, it's just a little bit to try and get caught back up. So some of those things you may not really realize that doesn't need to be done. For example, I had in there to replace the light fixtures. Those fixtures, they're old, and pretty much every time we go to change lights now, it's a ballast. So we're into doing a service call to electrician, and so like from our position, like we're looking at to try and save money in the long run in terms of maintenance and not maintaining a bad asset. So those are some of the areas that's why you're seeing that number there. So if council were to agree to all those items to get caught back up, you would notice that from year to year that the number would change, but certainly right now, just because we're playing 3 years of catch up, that's why we're in this position that we're in. So
No, I understand that, and I appreciate the background on it. But all I'm saying is let's be realistic, and I can see the lighting where it's costing manpower, maybe outside electricians, etc. That's a good thing, but I'm going to leave it to council as to whether we should include those two amounts in our budget. But
Yeah, thank you, Robbie. Yeah, a good example of something that's slipped over the years is our town hall. We didn't put any money into it, and then you get to a point you might as well tear it down.
Yeah.
That's where we'll be at with the library. If we leave it for another 5 years, we might as well get rid of it. Same as our medical center.
Yeah.
There's huge things if you leave them. So I think the plan that we have now is to try and be proactive instead of reactive like we have been in the past. And once we get caught up, I think like Ryan said, those things will start to drop off, or they'll be more realistic. But you're right, it's hard to look at it right now and say, like, you might think it doesn't need done, but some of these things, like you said, there's things happening under the building that you might not want to see. So
yeah.
Anyways, so it is a decent budget, and I did see the difference in the numbers that you were talking about. One's got 3 point something, and one's got 0.75. So, Councillor Ellis.
Yeah, just a quick comment. I'd like to commend Robbie for her comments and how she managed her budget. When you hear them say they went through line by line, did we really need? Do we have to increase and try to be frugal, as she said? That's good to hear, because that's kind of what we need in all departments as we go through this budget. So hats off to you guys at the library board.
Yeah.
They're being efficient, Larry.
Got it. She's got it.
You got that tattooed on your shoulder, I think. Efficiency. So, okay.
If you, so Gwendolyn?
Yeah, I was just going to say, as Robbie had alluded to, with the putting in a cleaner position, we'd probably see this budget in the next draft as a minus versus a 0.75, because there's going to be some huge cost savings throughout the different departments.
Right.
So
okay.
Those will come down.
Well, we'll let you work your magic. So, okay, good. On another, if I can bring up another point, we've been talking with Hucklebug, and I think I sent, well, I know I sent Bob a letter where we're agreeing to the use of space right now. And as an aside, it's interesting to know that all along the library board has been paying for the heat, the water, and electricity for Huckleberg. So we're very, anyways. So my point is, we've come to an agreement. Is there any issue with us not going ahead and using the area down below that was in our diagram, etc., at this point in time?
Yeah, it's not really a council thing as much as that's if staff's got the agreement with Huckleberg that you, and you have got the agreement with them, I think it'll be worked out in the end.
Yeah.
Larry, you had something?
Just quickly, how much room are you guys looking for to utilize below the library there?
I'm sorry?
How
How
much
much room,
Oh.
how much room do you need, Robbie?
Well, quite frankly, with the space that we've got, we'll use it all on that area. For we intend to put our genealogy section down there. We intend to put our used book down there and have used book sales. And we intend to, we wanted to include the Historical Society. However, that would encompass us taking over all of the space, which is what we hope for in the future. Anyways,
We do have a,
I think in our initial, Bob, did you pass on our information to the council, or?
No, through you, Mayor Martin, this is an item that staff is considering, and that was meant to be brought to the next council meeting.
Okay,
so we do have a lease agreement there with Huckleberg that we'll have to look at. And that'll change the whole budget. If we're gonna add another floor to the library board, we can probably double the budget too. So it's gotta be all looked at and see if it can work in and see if it works with Huckleberg with what they're doing right now too.
Yeah.
So
realistically, I believe they're only using the facility maybe 3 times a week. And that's to make cookies and before and after meals for both Havelock and Norwood.
yeah,
It's my understanding they've got as they call it, a major chef kitchen up at the school. So at this point in time, do they really need the facility to use it? And I understand they've got a lease, and from what I understand is it's a very good lease, very inexpensive for them. However, I believe that Havelock and our township could put that whole building to a better use than what it's being used for now.
I think the library board should have Huckleberg come to the board meeting and understand what the kitchen's being used for and why it's being used the way it is. It's because of COVID. They can't cross-contaminate between the school and so they're using the library to help with the after-school programs, and they're using the one at Huckleberg or at the library is being used to try and keep the things separated between, so nothing is contaminating between
Right.
all the schools. So there's a story to it that needs to be heard. I don't think it's been heard. It's just been looking at the space, and I know there's lots of ideas for that space. Council's talked about it for other things, like you say, historical. There's so many things. We're so short on space that we could use that. There's been talk about the food bank. I don't think it's big enough for the food bank, but it's after being in there last Saturday. But and I don't know whether that's where you would want the food bank. But anyway, there's a lot of discussion to happen there, and I don't know if that's going to be a part of this budget. Staff, we do have till the 14th of November before our next discussion. So, Bob, will that be part? Is that coming forward before then?
Sorry, through you, Mayor Martin. Yes, our next council meeting is scheduled for the first Monday in December.
Good. Okay, well, that's Robbie. So we will have some discussion on that and see if, like, I know there's one room there that I think you were negotiating with to try and use it down there that they're not using.
Well, it looked like we would get half and they would get half, and they control the kitchen, which is, you know, fine.
Okay. Hart, you had something?
No, I was just gonna make a motion to receive the library budget and thank Robbie for being so fiscally responsible with the taxpayers' money.
Yeah, thank you. So moved by Councillor Webb that we received the library budget. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Pomeroy, comment? No comment, okay.
Yep, thanks, Robbie. You're doing a good job.
Do I get an increase in pay?
Well, geez, we never talked about that at the meeting.
That's at our next meeting.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, all in favor of that motion?
Thanks, Robbie.
That's carried. Thank you, Robbie. So, all right then. So that pretty well wraps it up, Bob. Is there anything else? You moved on me there. I lost you. So there you are. Is there anything else, Bob, that you wanted for this meeting?
No other matters for this meeting. Through you, Mayor
Okay.
Martin.
So we are going to have a closed session this afternoon. Councillor Ellis, go ahead.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. I know Wendland's extremely busy trying to do her budget plus everything else she has responsibility for. But as I was going through some of the budget, when I get looking at direct cost of labor, I was wondering how much work would add to Wendland if I was to request information regarding overtime pay for all departments.
So that wouldn't add work to myself. I would pass that on to Brianna to do that if that's a request of council.
Well, I think it would help all of council. I know it would help me, and I think it would help all of council try to understand some of the direct cost of labor and what contributes to some of it. And so I guess through you, Mr. Mayor, to CAO Bob, if that's council's wish, then I would make that motion, but it's be a discussion for council first.
Yeah, well, I'll see if there's a seconder for that. Is there a seconder to acquire the overtime for the staff? Seconded by Councillor Pomeroy. And all in favor of that? That's carried. So Dave, you had something?
No, I was just going to second it with motion. Councillor Pomeroy seconded. I think it'd clarify a lot of stuff up when it comes to how much we're spending on overtime, that we perhaps could be more efficient.
Hire more people. There's two sides to the story.
That's not efficiency, Jim.
Well, we're doing a good job, and I'm happy with the way staff is working. So anyways, is there anything else, Bob?
No, through you, Mayor Martin, just if you wish to decide what time you'd like to carry on with closed session here in the council chamber this afternoon. Looks like 2 o'clock is a motion on the table.
Yeah, so we have a closed session motion for 2 o'clock. Is there a seconder for that? Yeah, so Barry's good with it. And
All right.
are you okay with that, Dave?
I do have another engagement. I just wonder how long you think this is going to take.
Half an hour, Bob?
Yep, through you, Mayor Martin, this should be a brief meeting. Half an hour should be plenty.
Thank you.
Okay, so closed session at 2 o'clock. Barry?
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Okay. Well, we got the confirming bylaw moved by Councillor Webb and seconded by Councillor Ellis, and then a motion to adjourn, Councillor Pomeroy and Councillor Webb. All in favor? Carried. Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you.